All right. So you asked me that question again.
So, how is it when you being on the West Coast? What was the dynamic listening to hip hop in the 80s and 90s? Were you like, I'm down with the East Coast, but you didn't say it too loud? Like, what were you taking in? What was most resonating with you musically?
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer the long question. The long answer is to say, like many, I was a Michael Jackson. I grew up with Michael Jackson. I'm sure a lot of us have.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was, with the Jacksons. And then, of course, when he goes, solo on the Big Way. So you could have saw me and be like, oh, this nigga think he is Michael Jackson. Like, just adapted the Jerry Curl, Penny Loafers, all that. But at the same time, rap music was what we had for ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't really popular like that, but in a neighborhood, you always heard whatever that rap song was. It could have been The Show at one point, Roxanne, or, the Boogie Boys. It was always the rap song that was really the thing that was popping, but it felt like it was just sort of our thing in the neighborhood. It wasn't, wasn't on TV or anything like that. So I always still had like, okay, I know what, rapping, like we always knew the words to Rapper's Delight or The Message. Like, you knew it word for word. And we didn't know regular songs as intently as we seem to know these rap songs. And at the time, I don't even think we understood how we were reciting these songs almost like they were scriptures or something. Like, you just knew all the words.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that I hung out with, I'm trying how it started. It's making me think. So of course there's Run DMC. Run DMC, and we would hear stuff on the radio, like the DJs would play on the radio shows. You'd have to listen to the radio to find it. Whoa. You got an alert or something?
No, I made sure that I wasn't getting sound notifications.
Okay. So we heard the songs. So I would hear the songs, and at some point, it must have been around Beach Street breaking days, which would predate Purple Rain, and this is something we talked about when I talked with David and Addie and them. But the people that I was friends with, we knew like there was the breaking type of rap that you would start to see on TV, but then there was the more authentic, like the stuff coming out of New York. Like, it wasn't Hollywood. So we were all into Style Wars and Wild Style. Like, yes, we had those movies. Yeah, we would watch them. Not only were we watching them because we were into graffiti. I was a graffiti really before. The first thing I really got into was graffiti, like tagging and then trying to do pieces and doing these elaborate art pieces and shit like that. That's what we was into because we were watching Style Wars and Wild Style, and we wanted to be like the graffiti writers. So we would dress like that. We would carry ourselves like that. We were running around the town trying to steal, spray bottles and tagging up shit because that's what we saw them doing in New York. And we felt like those were the realest, more, that was super authentic. Like, you had to be like that. Like, we would identify the way they talked, the style of the clothes, the laces, the shoes, we were just picking up on all this stuff. So for us, it was always like, well, that's what they doing in New York. That's the realest stuff. Like, that's what you want to be on. And so for musically, yeah, we had the same sort of, I guess, R&B and black music sort of bigger hits that would come through the radio. But the stuff that we really, you could say almost secretly were really into was rap and stuff coming out of New York. And like I said, because of those movies, we would those gave us our cues on style, how to talk, how you carried yourself, almost the ideology that was embedded in these movies would go out across the world, I guess, and across the country. And so that's how we would be way over here, and we would identify with that, as opposed to, and I never really noticed it, like, say, gang culture that was probably closer to me, in terms of distance and transplants from LA coming to Seattle area. But because it wasn't shown to me in media and things that I was ingesting, I just didn't even pay attention to it. Like, and then when I did start to pay attention to it, because again of the penetration of movies like Colors,
Colors, Juice,
Fort Apache, The Bronx, a little bit, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
So and then of course Boys in the Hood or something like that. That's when it became mainstream, and I started to notice it, and I was like, oh, okay. We had the New York mindset, so when we saw that stuff, we thought that was corny. Like, it was like, why would you want to be in a gang? Like, they're talking about shooting other black people. Like, that sounds ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
what I mean? Why would I want to? That's dumb. But because the music was so dope and everything, I start to like, okay, damn, they's talking crazy, but this shit is tight. Like, whoa. And I remember my friend Tobias, which you met Tobias. I don't know if you remember at
yes, I remember Tobias. Yes.
I remember him coming over to my house one day, and he had the Ice Cube first solo album, America's Most Wanted, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta listen to this." And I'm like, "Man, we're not trying to listen to no Ice Cube and this NWA. That stuff is ridiculous, man. We were so like Public Enemy. Like, why would I want to listen to?" He's like, "But dude, he's like, listen to the music. This shit is nuts." And that's when we kind of was like, okay, wow, like, this is actually dope art. It's talking about some foolishness. But
yeah, because if you remember, you had, we over here talking about self-destruction. You headed for self-destruction in the West Coast. They popping off.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a weird dynamic.
Absolutely. And that was like, but we identified with the self-destruction and all of that. And we looked at it the same way. But again, it was so enticing, I guess, and it was such a push that we eventually went forward with that. But to, I guess I'm answering your question, how did the music thing work like that? I was very much, like I said, I was very much into rap and hip hop, and even just bringing it back to Prince, I would hear about it a little bit from another family member. But back then things were so regional. Prince wasn't mainstream, and in the world that I lived in, which, the black population was super, super low, Prince didn't even penetrate out to Seattle. That wasn't being played at all, because the radio stations didn't play. He wasn't mainstream. It was purely a black sort of stations would hit, but we didn't really have the strong black station like that. So I had never heard, so I missed a lot of that. Now I would go to Houston, specifically Houston, Texas, to visit my family member, and that's where Prince was the man, But again, I was coming into it not knowing what they're talking about. They would just be like, "Oh, have you heard that?" Like, "Nah, I never heard that one," and they'd play it for me, and I remember like maybe I don't know if it was 1999 or, I think the last time I had went out there, I think DMSR. Yeah, so 1999 had just came out, and I had never heard it in Seattle. But I remember we went to this little party or something with my cousin, neighborhood party, and that's all I remember, because I can remember seeing the eye on the turntable, on the.
Yes.
I remember that was so distinctive. I was like, "Well, that's interesting." I never seen that shit like that. That's why I knew they were playing Prince, and I can kind of remember them playing DMSR, and that was like I could tell that was how I was mentioning earlier. There was always these rap songs that was the jam, and like when they came on, everybody would just, oh hey. I could see DMSR was like that to them, and I was tripping like, how come I had never heard this? Because obviously they are like all into it, and I was just like, this is interesting. And that was the biggest, you know, that's what I just thought about. I was like, okay. And when I went back home, I heard nothing of it until, of course, you know, Purple Rain goes mainstream. But even then, leading up to that, my cousin had moved to Seattle after, you know, who used to live in Houston. So she moved to Seattle, and she moved to Seattle right when the Purple Rain album was getting ready to come out. And she's already a massive fan. And so that's all she's talking about. And all I want to talk about is Run DMC, you know, King of Rock and different things. Mm-hmm. And I remember we went to the record store. She's like, oh, the album comes out today. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go buy my Run DMC stuff. So she bought both albums, the Time album, Ice Cream Castle, and Purple Rain. They were both out. And this was before the movie. And I always remember we would go to this little park down the street from my grandmother's house, and we would play music on our boombox. And we always had to fight, like who got to play what. She always wanted to play Prince, and I always wanted to play my rap stuff. and I always remember when she put on Let's Go Crazy. It was at the top of the tape, and I had never heard nothing like that. I was like, first I was like, this is some rock shit. You know, I was just trying to come up with all kind of ways to talk bad about it. I was like, but then I'm listening to it, and I was like, damn, I was like, what is this? Actually sounds kind of dope. What is this? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then when she would play the Time stuff, it was immediate for me. I was like, yo, this is hot. Like, you know, I was so into Ice Cream Castles, the song. Like, I was like, I was like, wow, what is this? But okay, now we got to play our Run DMC. But and then, you know, of course, seeing the movie and all of that, I realized she was right. Like, now I see why she was so enamored with this. Like, it's just like, I was like, whoa. It was like another world was being shown on the screen. And again, like everything, I feel like all of the big moments for us back then, they were from movies or how they affected us. Like I said, seeing Breaking had an effect to like, wow, you sort of legitimize some of rap stuff in your mind, and you saw Beat Street. It's like, wow, okay. Mm-hmm. But they were showing us glimpses, not just of the main attraction people that are the stars of movies, but it was everybody around them who I actually was enamored with. So like Crazy Legs and the Rocksteady crew and all them, mm-hmm. those, mm-hmm. I would go back and watch their scenes over and over, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we wanted to be like them. And it was the style of it all. And I think that, to me, that was the same way with Prince. Even though Prince was so like, he was like, whoa, I never seen like this. But it was the style of it all that was like, that's another world that looks dope. Like, I want to dress like them. I want to mm-hmm. look like them. I want to play music and be in a band like that. Like, that's what it opened to me. It opened another style world for us, the same way when we saw that New York stuff, that opened up another world that was way different than my home. And Purple Rain was another big door opening. So I was just like, I don't even really, you know, I'm like all into rap and dressing like hip hop and stuff, but I want to do this. Like, I think this is what I really like. Like, I never, you know what I mean?
They start sneaking up on you.
Yeah, and it just changed everything. And from that point, you know, it changed everything for me. And like a lot of us in the neighborhood, we all ended up wanting to get into music at a certain point and be rappers. And I did too, but I only felt like that because everyone else around me wanted to do that. But what I really wanted to be was like the Time and Prince in them. Like, but nobody mm-hmm. else was, you know, like, who could I go to get that? And so I remember like there would always be the neighborhood beat maker or DJ cat who had all the equipment, and you would always go over there and try to make a song or something. And I happened to know one of the biggest and best guys at it, and we were really cool. We all worked at McDonald's together. That's how I know. So he's like, "Yeah, man, come on over, man. Make some beats or play around or something." And I remember going over his house, and he was a master DJ. He still is to this day, producer. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Can I play you something?" I remember I was like, "Can I play you something?" I had the Sign of the Times record, right, vinyl. I put on Ballad of Dorothy Park. And I was like, "Can you make something like that?" He looked at me and like, "Nigga."
Bar is high.
He's like, "Nigga, I can't." He was like, "This is some other shit." He was like, but we ended up coming up with something where you could hear the influence of of course, the rap stuff, but you could hear like there was something else going on there, and that was the influence of Prince and stuff that I had brought into it. And that's where I stayed for a few years. I just tried to work within this hip hop sort of production mindset, but I wanted to do what I was hearing Prince do. So it was like trying to mold or flesh both of these together and try to figure it out. And that was how I got into doing music and doing all kind of shit. So yeah, I mean, the outside influences of music definitely shaped me, and that's how I identified with hip hop early on. And anyway, so that was a long 15-minute version.
No, that makes sense. And to the beauty of what you said, as far as like hip hop and Prince, and bringing up Crazy Legs, you were opened up to the dance world of it all. Now you
Absolutely.
understand break dance is happening, all of the style. Mm-hmm. And in my history, definitely was all about Michael and Prince. Mm-hmm. So, when you went to school every morning, you told, "Did you see this video? Did you see that?" And I'm all coming to school with a ruffle blouse and a beaded jacket on because I got to mix it up with some, lace gloves and a skirt, denim skirt or whatever.
Yeah. I had the Thriller jacket. No, I had the beaded jacket. I'm sorry, the fake beaded jacket.
I mixed it both. So finally, fast forward a couple of years, and you get Crush Groove, and I'm proud because other people get to, my friends get to hear about what I'm into, which is Prince, Sheila E, and it bridged those worlds together because I loved hip hop too. I wasn't like deep there because again I was in the world of Michael and Prince. So when Crush Groove came out, it all came together for me, and they're like, "I get it now." And it was great. It was such a great time then. You had hip hop, you had R&B, there was Prince, Michael, there's Blue Eyed Soul going over in the UK. There was just all of these mixtures and melting pot of music that you can explore. It was really, really great.
I want to ask you one thing about you that, and it was weird getting deep into this conversation. I almost feel like there's like a fireside chat or something. But I'm talking to Tammy. Tammy, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mr. D.
Okay,
very good.
Put that out there. Who you want to let you know who's speaking? But one of the things that when I picked up from you, I guess maybe it was just through social media or whatever, but talk to me about the influence or the impact or just whatever it could be about Janet Jackson to you. I feel like part of me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, part of me identifies with you in a sense. Maybe it's a subconscious thing, but I sometimes, or I have seen pictures and I can see Janet Jackson through you, if that makes any sense. Like I could see like she must like Janet Jackson, and I love Janet. Like you have, we've talked about Prince and Michael and the influences, but there's a Janet sort of thread that runs through particular times in music that, at least in my age, I was in love with Janet Jackson for whatever reason. And I feel like I can see the Janet something coming. It's like sometimes you can see the Prince in people, or I can see the Michael in them, or I can see the.
It's just a vibe, I guess.
Yeah. So talk to me about Janet Jackson.
Well, Janet. I do have a trifecta. My trifecta is PMS, not that PMS lady. Prince, Michael, and Sade.
Ooh, as I look at the Sade poster looking over me.
Artists, if I was on an island and that's all I had to listen to, I'd be good. However, there is a sub tier, and that tier is definitely Janet Jackson, of just female performers who I look up to, and just the excellence. So people like Janet Jackson, Grace Jones, Diana Ross. These are women who I grew up. They were my Beyoncés. Oh, and lest I forget, the late Donna Summer. Donna Summer was my Beyonce at 2 years old.
Wow.
But going back to Janet, I had just a connection with her music. Again, the style. I was never one that was into frills and pink and stuff like that. And she came out with this all black, and I'm like, finally someone speaks my language.
Yeah.
So, it's just a shift. And I never tried to dress like her or anything like that, because I always had my own personal style. Okay. However, there'd be little things that I would, incorporate, the boots, the club kid boots, or, the jewelry, the belt, but still it had me in there. And of course, again, I'm still on the Michael and Prince train. So that was where the style came from. But for Janet, just her, from watching her on Good Times and and Different Strokes, and in Fame, you sort of grow up and you see someone who you see yourself in them somewhat. And she loved animals, and I loved animals. It's just, I feel a sistership with Janet Jackson, pretty much. Nothing crazy, but Janet was definitely the blueprint of, growing up musically, and you see them sort of come into themselves. Like Rhythm Nation, Control, that was it. And then I still have to go back to this because of all people for this to happen to, it was just the world or the universe just circling back. To have her walk into my job, 2016.
Wait. So what? I don't know what you're talking about here.
Oh, you didn't hear this story?
Yeah, tell me the whole.
Heard this story?
Maybe I did. I'm getting old. I forget. No, what happened?
Okay. So, June. This is shortly after Prince passed, of course. June of 2016. I'm at work, and I'm not going to say where I work just for safety purposes. I mean, nothing big, but just I'm very private in that way. So I'm at work, and I see a gentleman walks in pretty slow that day, because usually in June, people are kind of easing and going to their summer homes or whatever may have you. I'm at work. I see this gentleman come in, and I say, wow, he kind of looks like, Julius. And I'm like, okay, no. And I'm,
And who was Julius? Who's this?
I hope I'm getting old too, so I hope I'm messing up his name. I know it started with a J, but her security guard.
Okay, gotcha.
So he walks in first and sort of looks around. And then young woman comes in, hat on, braids. And I see she walks in and she immediately walks left. And they're together. And I see the side profile. And I'm blind, mind you. I really can't see. So I'm nearsighted, so I really can't see. But I look and my eyes, I guess, focus. And my stomach just dropped.
Wow.
And I said to myself, oh my gosh, it is Janet Jackson.
I know you was ready to lose it.
And another young lady came in. Her assistant was with her, and at this time she's very much pregnant. And I know you've heard the crazy rumors of people like, oh, she's not pregnant or blah blah blah. She's very much pregnant. And yeah, she came to the store, and I had a chance to really have a good conversation with her.
Really?
Yeah, for about almost a little over an hour, almost 2 hours.
Wow.
And immediately I went in, of course, I'm not going to go and go, oh my God, and fan out. So I have to be professional. And I'm used to being around, working with different celebrities then. And however, I locked the door. And I said, I went over I didn't approach her first. I went over to security guard. I said, just anything she needs, just let me know. I'll have everything set up, so on and so forth. So we did have, I will not disclose of what we talked about, but we did mention, we talked about Michael, we talked about Prince for a bit. And, I'm still in that raw space because it just happened in, April.
Okay. Wow.
But anyway, she got comfortable enough to have me come in, and I would know what Janet would like to wear. So I'm just like picking stuff like, oh, I got this. I got this. And she's like, oh, no, I like that. I don't want to, we're going through things, and I'm just letting her listen, right, whatever you need. I'm here. I got you. And I said, whatever's discussed here, it stays here. I'm definitely going to protect your privacy, because I definitely have a reverence for you and your family. And I still stand by that. And anyway, long story short, I wound up getting invited to concert.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So her assistant sent me a text and everything lined up, and, Janet got me tickets to her concert. So anyway,
man, that's cool. That's cool.
Go back over everything, to admire this person since I was a kid, and to be, now an adult, and she could have went into any store. She came to mind. So it's just like those little things that you go, wow, universe, thank you. That was pretty cool for that to happen.
Well, you are a universal person, I'm going to tell you, as we'll get into. But wow, yeah, what did she seem like to you? Was she like, is cool?
Well, she was very, when she came in, it's warm, and anyone who's here in New York, when it's hot here, it's hot. So when it's hot and carrying a baby is pretty miserable, or feeling miserable, I'd imagine. But she was very gracious, very sweet, gorgeous. More gorgeous in person than in pictures, as far as I'm concerned. And it's funny, when I'm looking at her, I see Michael. And of course, naturally, as her brother, but my mind is like, wow,
I can imagine.
She's right here, she's right here, but I'm seeing Michael, and it's just the genes are so strong. But she was very, very gracious, very kind. and came back twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, came back twice, and
Wow, that's dope.
and she dropped off a letter to me. She has her own stationery. I will share that with everybody. Her own stationery, Janet Jackson in gold,
Love it.
with a really nice, really nice words. I got the baby a present. Didn't know it was going to be a boy or a girl, but I had a feeling it was a boy. I just had that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was a great experience, and it was very just nice to have that experience with her. And only thing I did, what I will mention from the conversation, I let her know, I said, Prince always played your music live. He might not have been singing it. He was jamming to your music. I just want you to know that if you don't already know. She's like, yeah, that's really, really cool. We mentioned some other, stuff about religion and talking about religion, just different things. But she was very, very gracious, and I also gave her space. Everyone needs their space. I like my space, and I'm not a celebrity. So
Right.
left it to do, and then she would call me back over, see what I think. And, basically I shut the place down so that she can have full range to have her privacy. And, so that's my Janet story, but definitely the influence, it's just a definitely deep, sincere admiration for her work, for her contribution to dance, for her contribution to wanting to make the world, a much better place through music and dance. No, she's not a Aretha Franklin or whatever, but Janet has changed the scope of music history.
Yeah, Janet is Janet.
She made the way for Ciara or many other artists, who's come up now. So.
I had no idea about this Janet story like that. That's just very interesting. Like I could see, like I said, the same way you can see that Michael in her. I can see that Janet kind of thing in you, but I had no idea you had met her like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, met her in 2016. As many of us, my spirit was broken and just down, and to have her walk in there and have that conversation after she's gone through that. Not to say that Prince, family member of mine, but it felt like a family member died for all of us. So 2 months after, I felt like the universe, God, whatever you will, was just sending me a little salve, like you're gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was nice to have the concert to look forward to. And so I'm forever eternally grateful to Janet Demita Jo Jackson.
Yeah, there's, she is so unique in terms of like, I think what she represents and where she comes from. I don't know if we have yet to ever see anything like that. And like you said, she comes from basically royalty, to us, royalty. Right? She grew up in it. We saw her sort of acting a little bit, and it's like we knew who she was. She didn't have any big hits or anything like that yet. She was trying to she's putting her music out, but the early one, that kind of wasn't it. But it was, we knew she was a Jackson, and Michael was continuing to just shining light. But it was a certain sort of respect that we had for the Jacksons, like the Jackson 5 and the Jacksons. They done laid the groundwork. So anybody that come out that family, the expectation is that they're gonna be the shit. Like you got to give them respect off the top because they earned that. And I think that's when we saw Janet growing up, and we just kind of was waiting for that thing. And when she finally clicked in with Jammin' Lewis,
that was it.
And that, and the other part of that makes, to me, I look at it now, is she comes from the royal family of the Jacksons, and of course is going to be influenced by all of that. But at the same point, she is us.
Of a Minneapolis down.
Right. And she can't not help be influenced by Prince and what they got going on. And I just think we just got the best of both of those worlds. We got the Minneapolis, and we got the Jackson staple of excellence of Michael. And she was just the convergence of all of that. And she rose to the occasion. And became almost like, I don't like to say threat is a word, but she became like, both of those two brothers have to recognize, yo,
she's coming up.
Yeah, she ain't playing. That's like, okay.
And she always had that little glimmer of light in her and star quality. If you looked at, then the variety shows.
Yep.
Just
who was she? Was it Mae West or something? What was she doing?
She was doing Mae West.
Mae West, yeah.
And I think one of my favorite videos to watch is the Vicki Lawrence when she was with it was Vicki Lawrence when the Jacksons were dancing. Body Language. That is one of my favorite videos to watch of all of them. It's just such a vibe, and I just wished I was in that time frame, but I guess it was a kid or whatever. But a great video. It just shows all the Jacksons, all of them there. And yeah, once she was on these variety shows and Cher, she just had this star quality, wasn't shy. I'm sure watching her brothers, you can't help but, pick up on what they're doing. And I have to, I'm going to get smoked for this. I'm going to get smoked, but I'm okay. I'm going to stick my chest out while I say it.
Okay.
I'm wondering if Rebe Jackson, if she continued on the path of being a pop star, would we have Janet?
That's interesting. Actually interesting. That's a valid question. Yeah.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Even though we just had Centipede.
But that was the shit.
Yeah, I'm imagining what it would be if Jammin' Lewis worked with Rebe as well. Like just having that production.
If they got with her first or something. That would have been interesting. Yeah, I mean,
it's just as you say. How is it you say in an alternate life or
in the quantum realm?
In the quantum realm, yes.
I'm sure there is a timeline where Rebe is the Janet Jackson, and she's doing. It's all about control.
Well, but again, she chose to, continue with her faith and family, and nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
So you're just making me think of the Jacksons, man. Like,
and I'm so looking forward to
the documentary.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's easy to do now, but I hope younger people. Let me be clear. There's so much reverence and respect for Michael Jackson from younger generation. It's incredible, but I hope there's things out there where they can really see how badass the Jacksons were. Like how the reason why we have a lot of the things we have today is the Jacksons, man. Like, it's easy to Tito or I'd be clowning Jermaine and all that, but let me be very clear. Them cats really get a pass and respect, at least from me, off the top like that. They did Jacksons like that. They were real life superheroes, and they had Luke Skywalker. It was their younger brother, Michael Jackson, and
that's a good analogy.
Yeah, and he's just like, we all watched him. He was a kid, fascinating, incredible, and just all those years that they were doing stuff, like you said, the variety shows and just they were incredible, man.
Now, for the younger people, variety shows is when you gather around the television and, some big name celebrity would have a host of celebrities come up and do skit and sing and perform. You had to be a triple threat then.
Yeah, you had to be talented back then.
You had to be talented, yeah. To even be on those stages with the caliber of those performers.
And they was doing that, well, I guess it was weekly or whatever. I mean, full on productions. It's just ridiculous. To me, I guess in a sense, you could argue maybe you still see the DNA of that stuff today in these. I actually never watched these shows like the Masked Singers and these type of singing type shows. The DNA of it sort of exists in those types of things. But imagine if it was, and there's no one I can compare it to. It would be some artist who their whole family was raw. It was talented, and they did that every week, and they was the shit. Like, and then they go on to world dominance. You've never seen nothing like that, and I just think the Jacksons really put it down so heavy. I don't know if anyone could. It's just too many things that would have to fall in place for that to happen.
Yeah, for a whole,
you know what I mean, for a whole family
to have that dynamic. I mean, of course, you had all at the same time. You had the Barge family, but still, they sonically together, their voices are beautiful. But they still didn't do those things that Jackson did. You had 5 Star, the Jet.
They didn't have no Joe Jackson.
They didn't have a Joe Jackson.
Keep it a buck. They did. Well, I mean, they did not have the visionary, disciplinary black dad who wasn't taking no shit and was gonna make sure their kids was gonna withstand all of the stuff that was gonna come at them. And it made it seem like he ruled it with an iron fist. I'm gonna say iron fist of love, but these other groups did not have that. They had the talent, but that was what I'm saying. There was so many factors for the Jacksons, but that number one factor, I know they don't want to give it up to him, is Joe Jackson. Because without that, they're not going to be whipped into shape.
Right.
Figurative, however you want to call it. That's why the Jacksons always was on point. And that spirit of excellence, whether that came from fear, whether it's because you wanted to please your daddy, whatever it is you want to call it, that's what excels them all to places we have yet to see a whole family do. I mean, one person to be the star or one person, but everyone in there had a run to some level. Some of them had superstar runs, but I mean, man, it was the family, man. Even to this day, there's been deaths and different things, but the Jackson family and the grandkids and they good. I mean, you know what I mean? In terms of like, that name is still strong and the kids about there fighting for the respect. They all, had their business was handled properly. The mom is still here, still respected, still being taken care of, still has you know what I mean? It's like you ain't never seen, it's nothing like that. There's not, even though it could be like said like, oh, there's all these scandals, but they ain't true. You know what I mean? Like it's on some bullshit, but the mom and is still standing strong. They still unified, and I don't know any other pop culture family you can say that about. That's on that level, man. The Jacksons is the shit. Even with Mike gone, they still don't. I mean, they still sweating.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's still on them.
And it was, after Michael passed, and the Jacksons, the brothers got back together. Man, that was still a fantastic show. Marlon held his own, body rolls and all. And I don't mean body rolls like in your back or whatever. I mean dancing that movement. He was like, I'm going to show y'all what I have.
Right.
And what I impart. I don't know if you remember that scene where Marlon's doing the most.
Listen. How many Marlins? I clown but because I love Marlon. Because they superstars to me, so I can clown on them like that. But you ain't got to tell me. I already know.
So it was a great show. Everyone contributed, even to this day right now. Tito has new music out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're still carving their own path and doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So,
and they should be shown the same level of respect and reverence as some of these other rock stars and all that. They the Jacksons, like they did that. You can't take nothing back. They got cultural generational hits. And that's it. Just like any other rock band or what, they were bigger than all of them groups in my opinion. To me, their influence is bigger than all them other groups. I don't care what. Like I said, they had Luke Skywalker. They had the Hope in their group. That was their little brother. The actual hope for the world was in their group. And so that's it. I just like, okay. And Marlon, for much as I want to, Marlon was standing right there with Michael doing the moves and getting it popping. That's
doing the choreography. So they did a great job, with their shows that they came back with. And it just brought me back to me being at the Victory Tour with my dad. Just
wow.
What an amazing show. I mean, you get there in the parking lot, you have like maybe 40 ambulances deep on an angle because they're ready for people to pass out and drag them out. And then the pyrotechnic. And you hear that, can you feel it? And everyone just goes wild. It was amazing then. I was glad to just see those shows again, but it still sad because you realize that I shouldn't even say sad. It was melancholy because you're realizing that this era has like come so far and it ended with Michael. But again, that family is strong, and maybe hopefully their grandkids or the kids will years from now will pick up and do something and, be just as great. Because you can go to any corner of the world and you're going to know who Michael Jackson is. You're going to know the Jacksons.
Absolutely. Yeah. It rings out.
That is a universal musical hold on the world. The end.
Yeah. That's it.
And then if we want to bring it back to Prince, you have a time where you had Prince and Michael coexisting at the same time, dominating the music chart.
Which is crazy if you go looking at it now. That's crazy.
Two black men just at the top of their craft. Not trying to be like one another at all, but watching one another.
Right.
And just to have that sort of creative push. Like, oh, you did that? Okay. And then you hear this person's doing this person's doing that. And as far as Michael, what he did with the film world, bridging film and music together, changed the scope of videos. Prince, what he did with musicianship and his live stuff and just the mystery. That was intriguing. It was groundbreaking. It was really, really a great time in music, and I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. It was really good times, good stuff, and it's also wonderful to just have conversations with people who've been there, who get it, who understand what that time was about.
Yeah, just to go back to that Victory Tour for a second. That show was so, you know what? So I got to see that. I think it was in Vancouver, but it was like, it was so spectacular from my young mind. I have no recollection of the show.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I saw it, and it first, as you had mentioned, it was probably the biggest concert attendance wise I had ever been to in my life. I mean, it was just like ridiculous amount of people, where I felt like Michael was like 3 blocks away or something. That's how it felt to me. But it was such an overwhelming thing that I felt like, what's the movie with Will Smith and they flash that light in front of you and you just like forget everything?
No,
Men in Black.
Yeah.
I felt like somebody just held a light over the entire auditorium place and just flashed our brain like, you are not going to remember what you just saw here. It's too much. Like your brain will blow up, and that's how I feel. Like I feel like it was just so incredible. I can remember how I felt, but I can't remember anything about what was going on up there. It was just so. I was so enamored with Michael Jackson at that point that I fainted or I don't know.
You were in shock, or
I probably was.
Who knows? But it was sensory overload at the time.
Yeah.
Like,
It blew
I
me
remember
away.
walking in. I remember going inside and it was just nothing but people, just droves of people.
I couldn't believe he was there. That's what it was. I just couldn't believe he was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how big Michael, like I said, if you go to a concert or something and the performer is there, but you can't believe he's there. Like, it's just, it's like, he can't be real, but he is. And that's how I felt. Like, I was like, somebody's, well, Iron Man is standing. Yeah, but that doesn't exist. But I was like, yeah, it does. Like, I was like, it just doesn't.
There.
Yeah, but he's there. It's way over. You can hear him. You can see it on the screen. And just in my mind, I just couldn't believe, like, why would he come here? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he was that big to me. Like, he wouldn't come here. Even though I just bought a ticket and I'm standing here, there's no way he'd come here.
It feels like a mirage almost, or like, a dream.
Yeah, the dream. That's Michael Jackson, man, and that's why, like, and you hear people, oh, such and such is bigger than Michael Jackson. I don't really think you understand.
They're talking crazy now, especially they really are, because first of all, pre-social media, if they understood just a glimpse of the commercials, the award shows, the concerts, the merchandise, just everything, they would not. Because I guarantee you, whomever they're saying is bigger than him would not be able, they may fill an arena, but they're not going to have that longevity. They're not going to have the vision to do now what Michael did then.
And the way things are set up, they can't. There's just no way. If something happened to whoever the biggest artist is today, they're not going to preempt all of media to talk about it. Only because there's too much media. There's too much out there. But back then, we were working with, there's only a set amount of channels.
Yeah.
There's only a set amount of places where you're going to get information from. So it's going to be on all of them.
Yeah.
And dominate everything. And that's the Michael Jackson era. It'd be impossible to blanket everything. I said blanket. It'd be impossible to cover cover everything like that today. Yeah. And it's just that was the difference. Like you said, pre-social media, pre-internet, pre-cell phone, and pre-instant access to everything. No.
Yeah. Do you know what to your point, you know how much power that is to mobilize millions of households to come together because Thriller is coming on at this time, at that moment, and you have all syndicated television tuned in.
Yep. Everyone's going to watch it at the exact same time.
Everyone's watching it.
No matter what you was into, he was going to watch
that is direct marketing from the TV to the brain.
Right.
And it is embedded. I still remember that moment.
And he had many of those moments, right? Like Thriller, the Bad video. Of course, the one that started it all, the original viral moment, in my opinion, was Motown 25.
Yes.
That was that.
Sequin jacket, his
Yeah.
mom's jacket, and those socks and those loafers. That was it.
Yeah.
That
I
was
mean,
the
that
that
was
was
everybody. Just imagine, like I said, there wasn't that many channels. This is like cable was barely come a thing at that point. But everyone had the basic channels.
Mm-hmm.
And so you said, oh, there's a Motown show's coming on. Ain't nothing else to watch that's going to be better than. Of course, we're all going to watch it. Like, why wouldn't you watch that? It's the biggest thing on TV. There's nothing else to watch.
Yeah, the award shows were big then, and
Yeah.
they had substance.
You had no
Because
choice but to watch them. I mean, it was like, where else you going to see these people at? What are you
and
talking about?
you had to watch it because the next day when you go to school,
That's all you're going to talk about.
that's the conversation at the lunch table.
And yeah, and that's where you're going to get your style cues,
You get your culture right
culture, all of that,
Mm.
again.
Yeah.
And that's why those moments were so big, man. And it's hard to replicate that today because there's just so many ways to see these things now, where the award shows of today are pretty much dead, in my opinion. Like, it's just,
There's
you can,
some little great little good performances, like but other than that, it's forgettable.
they just don't have the cultural impact. And
Yeah.
there's no way they could because we're watching too many different things now. We're not going to all just sit down and watch this show at this time.
No,
at
I mean
this,
watch it tomorrow, if even, or next
Right.
week, because we have the ability to go back now, or
Yeah, yeah. And
play
yeah.
back later.
I always, one of the things I always remember, outrageous. My man Lionel Richie, he showed out that year. Boy, I was like, but I loved it. I said, okay, yeah, that was a big moment. I was like, okay, Lionel Richie, okay,
Yeah, and then him, in his own right, these are all heavy hitters, and you don't have today. And I don't want to sound like that because don't get me wrong, there is some great music out there. There's some good upcoming
Absolutely.
musicians.
Absolutely.
However, these award shows don't have heavy hitters. They have a difficult time, even finding people worth putting together a show. As far as I'm concerned, there's not, and also there's not many left. Who you're going to have up there? They're getting up there in age.
I think, like, to me, I believe there are dope ass Michael level, Prince level, Bobby Brown. There are these artists that exist, but they're probably niched in something else. And it's impossible for the quote unquote gatekeepers to know about these acts. You just can't know about everything. There's way more acts than there ever was. And I don't think, so by the time they do maybe find something like that, the other part of the game is they have to push that against, well, is this person going to bring in people to want to watch the show though? They're not known. They're not known like that. So we ain't putting them on that screen. They may be good as hell, but they don't bring no ratings or no ad rev. So get them out of here. You know what I mean? Or they may be the most best singer in the world, but they don't look like Beyonce or what we think the template should look like. So we're not going to put them on the main headline like that. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's what's happening a lot of days is the talent is there, but I think now everything is judged by this marketability type of thing.
Whatever scandal you've gotten to that lead.
And it just doesn't, the talent isn't the main gauge. So that's why, I'd rather just put, like you said, this person who's known more for scandals and they're more in the public eye on social media. I put them on because they're going to bring seats to it, even though, their performance is going to be trash, but that doesn't really matter, right? That's
right. They're more so, again, I'm going to mention someone and I don't particularly listen to him because his music doesn't resonate with me. I appreciate his, I call him the male Lady Gaga now, and that's little Nas X.
Interesting.
And someone like him, how far can I just do something else that's going to be of shock value? But it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of years will bring. Will you have that longevity, or is this just short term? Whatever. I like Doja Cat. I think she's really talented. She definitely can do great things. Of course, there's Cardi B. And again, these are all visual scapes. But for me, I would love to see, although she's solo now, I would like to see Alabama Shake. Brittany Howard up there. She's an amazing vocalist. But they are so hell bent on what your package is, as opposed to your talent.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to speak bad on any artist, because the game, just the thing that determines stuff is just totally different, and it's
different now.
So I get it. Like,
we don't want to be seen as no, y'all not with the times. No, I understand what's going on, but it's just different.
It's just that's
what it is.
A different bar.
Yeah,
determination. And this is the last thing I'll say on this for me personally, and I've talked about it before. People get, I'm not even a fan of the work like that. I don't listen to his stuff like that. I've listened to the first 2 albums I probably bought, and they're the shit to me. But like a Kanye West or something like that.
Yeah.
I just watched maybe the first 40 minutes, and I fast forwarded through it. He's got a concert on Amazon. It's him and Drake. It's like Free Hoover concert or something.
Free Larry Hoover.
Free Larry Hoover.
But again, I didn't run to watch it because I'm like,
yeah. I had no intention. I was just sitting there. It was late at night. This is the other night, actually. And I was like, you know what? I just sat in my mind. I said, what does a rapper look like today? I was like, what does the superstar rapper look? And so I started watching that. And he has the whole choir thing. And I've heard of it, but I never paid attention to it. They performed for like 30 minutes or something. I was like, really? He's really can do whatever the hell he wants, because they were super talented, but I was like, 30, 40 minutes of this?
That won't cut it for me.
I was like, that's crazy.
2-3 hours of a performance.
Right. And then he finally comes out, and the spectacle of it was so fascinating to me, because I was like, this is the mainstream superstar rapper. And he came down descending from the staircase at that LA arena thing, was where they had the Olympics back in the 80s. It's so imprinted in my mind of, when they bring and he comes down and smoke like that, him and Drake just walking down. And I was like, this is so iconic in terms of the visual presentation of it. I was like, they're presenting themselves as gods, and I was like, that's dope that black artists, hip hop has come to this level. I just thought I was like, this is so fascinating. And then when he walks to the stage that's in the round, almost, it's just a white stage with smoke coming off the side, and it ramps up to the center of it, and he just stood in that for the entire performance with nothing else up there. It just him with smoke, and you could see there was a whole, arena surrounding him. I couldn't watch it all because it was kind of boring to me, but I was like, damn, these niggas is superstar. I was like, I know who Kanye is, but I've never really paid attention to it in the last 10 years. But I was watching, and I was just like, I may not really be feeling him like this, but I have to give it up. It's like whatever he's doing,
it's clicking with,
with
his fan base.
He understands today's place. And I'm like, I'm just amazed how far rap had come. I was like, God damn, he's big. And listen, I'm not going to compare them to the people I like. All I will say is, I believe he is in his, I don't know what
interpretation of him?
No, in terms of how long he's been out. He's been in this, what is it, 20 years or something now?
About 20 years. Like the Kanye who I resonate with, which is a brilliant album,
Yeah.
My Beautiful Dark Twisted
Okay.
Fantasy.
Yep.
That is brilliant.
And I've heard people herald that album. I personally have not listened to it. I know some of the bigger songs from it. I have the utmost respect for it, but I'm like, if I don't know of any other one rapper, let alone pop star, who has been in the game as long as he's been in it and is considered top tier. Stop what you're doing. They're going to report on his every move type situation. I have yet to see, unless somebody could tell me what other pop star rapper has been in it that long and they still care like he's a brand new artist. Like, it's just unheard of. And the fact that he's, again, when I say top tier, I'm like, they report on everything he's doing, like he's Michael Jackson or something. You know, back in the day, Michael wouldn't even have no albums out. But he still was at the top. Oh, he was in the chamber this week, or he did. You know what I mean? It was like they just cannot stay off his nuts. You know what I mean? It's like everything he did was top news. To me, that's how they treat Kanye.
Yeah,
Foolishness or not, it's still like he's still at the top of this fucking thing. He should be washed up at this point. Most rappers do not make it to this level, let alone pop stars. And even the ones that I damn near dedicate half of my life to, 20 years in the game, their albums, they was dropping albums. Well, let's be keeping a buck. Them albums wasn't being mentioned like this guy seems, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different, unless you was Michael Jackson, was the only person that was getting that type of media penetration and attention. It just seems weird that
his affiliation with Kim that even brings that up another notch or whatever. So yeah,
it's just whatever it is. But it's amazing when I look at it. I'm like, man, I love late registration and all that. It blows my mind that even all these years later, they act like he just came out.
Right.
Like he really got. So it would be interesting to see in another 20 years how people could look back at him. And I would not, again, I'm not pumping him up, but I'm just going logically. I could see the narrative had changed about him where he would be seen as one of the biggest, I almost hate to say it, like he will be seen as one of the biggest artists, period. Like they'll be like, he's had 30 albums and there's going to be someone who's going to jump up and say that album was the dopest one. Oh no, remember when he came out with that album, everyone thought he was crazy, but that album is my life now. And then, I could see that. I could see it because his albums be drastically different, whether they worked at the time or not. I have to give him props. Like he's making artist moves. Like, why don't he make music like that no more? Well, he's on his artist shit, I guess. And maybe you don't get it. You know what I mean? It's the same excuses that we run for other people. I didn't like that album. You know what I mean?
I want that type of notoriety for K-Dot. But he's a private person, but I find his artistry to be up there as well.
There's I would say the same like Rakim. Like there, of course,
Rakim
dudes that are dope, but he didn't have the commercial. It's just he's on a different type of artistic thing.
He's underground. Do you still consider he's underground? Known, yes, but not that commercialness as like Will Smith or something like that. Who, that was safe rap then. When you had Rakim out, that's real, that's hardcore. At least it was then. And they sweep those people sweep them under the rug when they were the culture.
Right.
They had the lyricism. They walked the walk. They were in the streets. So that's just a dynamic of when the commercialism crosses and sort of
and the marketability
makes it safe for palatable, if you will, for all. Yeah.
It's easier to market, and I say these guys out of love. It's easier to market a Mace or a
Who loves
Puff
Lord now?
P Diddy than it would
Yeah.
be easier to market a Rakim.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Because they don't want to. For them, like, how are they going to monetize it? How are they going to make money off of it? And in different neighborhoods, they'll blast your music, but they're not necessarily going to be in your neighborhood.
Mm.
So that's a different topic altogether. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen the commercial for the upcoming halftime show.
I have it.
So looking forward. Oh, you have to see it. Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige. West Coast is going to be lit in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So
that's probably the biggest thing coming, I would imagine, in terms of music. Like, anticipation is heavy for this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have no dog in the race for the Super Bowl or halftime show. I'm going to be watching that.
Yeah,
for sure. I might put some Chucks on. I bring my Chucks out.
Hilarious. We could talk all day about those guys because I'm a big fan of what they've spawned that time frame musically.
Yeah, West Coast.
Ridiculous.
I definitely resonate with that. I have to thank person I was seeing at the time, Theo Mizuhara. He, was from the West Coast, and that's how I sort of blossomed into that world and learning about, Tupac and Eazy-E and Cube and Nate Dogg, like a whole different world altogether. So happy that, they're going to get their time to give a really great Super Bowl. Yeah,
that's it. It definitely would be exciting. Of course, I'm watching that. It's a must watch. It's almost like they should just like sell just that. Like, you want to? Because I don't even have. Well, I guess I do have. I could watch the regular game. It'll come on regular TV, I'd imagine. But I would. I wouldn't mind paying.
Regular.
Oh, okay, I was like, if they just say, hey, for $10, you can just watch the Super Bowl, own it, and you can just rewatch it. I'd pay for that. I was like, okay, I was like, that'd be a pay-per-view.
Oh, Pepsi, I got to give it to Pepsi throughout the years. That commercial, that ad was stellar. It's up there with Michael Jackson's Got to Bring It Back to Him, his Pepsi commercial.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's another thing. The Pepsi commercials were fascinating. Like, I'm gonna watch TV just so I can videotape this commercials. I gotta catch it. Like, the commercial was just it was just like real. I was like, the one, and that's why Alfonso, he will always get some level of pass and respect because he was in the commercial with Michael Jackson. Like, God damn.
Yep.
Breaking board be damned. My man was getting his hustle. He said, I got the Alfonso breaking board. Man, we wanted one of those so bad. Did your mom let you order one? Or she just gave me some cardboard and said, make do with that. Listen, man, some of you younger listeners, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's how big breaking and hip hop was. They had people walking around with goddamn pieces of cardboard so you could be doing dance battles outside. We was at the shopping mall. Cats was bringing cardboard to the shopping mall so we can be inside and start. Again, we wanted to be rock steady in them, so it's just crazy. I mean, that's wild. That's how deep it was, man. Like,
that's how profound the music was. And then,
Yeah.
I'm going left center here with my, you know, music theater stuff. Then you had Fame.
Yes.
You want to just start running out and dancing on taxi cab, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes.
You
That's
know.
right. Yeah.
So
That was a
yeah,
big, Fame. Big. Yeah, it was a big deal. Leroy.
Leroy in
Man,
his gray sweatpants.
woo.
Leroy was giving it all
Leroy
it
was
got.
early. Yeah, he was
Yes,
early.
he was early with it.
Mm-hmm. Of
Yes,
course,
yes, yes.
now you got me. Of course, I think you mentioned earlier Flashdance.
Oh, that was my movie.
She's in something now. Jennifer Beals. There's
Jennifer Beals. She's been in
some show that's on right now that she's on. Oh, she's on the Star Wars thing. That's what I was bugging about. She plays in the Book of Jabba, or not the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh,
She
okay.
looks gorgeous. I was looking at that. I was like, is that Jennifer Beals?
She definitely kept herself up. I gotta like touch on that for a moment.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Flashdance,
Oh,
that was like that was going to be my ultimate lifestyle. I was going to live in a loft with a dog, have my shirt on with my shoulders out. I was going to be at a high-end restaurant playing footsies under the table. I had it all planned out. Like, she did her thing.
yes, she did. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What was that? Maniac.
Oh yeah,
Man.
with Michael McDonald.
Yes,
no,
was it Michael McDonald? I think it was.
I think.
I have to look it up. That video was damn. I'm saying this respectfully. And from me at that age, that was damn near porn. Like, she was just something else, man. I was like, oh my God, I used to watch that over. I was like, oh my God. There wasn't no twerking and booty videos, nothing.
That was just the
dance.
Inside world of dancers and light strippers, or not even burlesque, but just that world. And for me living in New York, 42nd Street was seedy.
So you was right there, man.
When I was a little girl, and we would go to 42nd Street to watch movies. So there was an area where it was nothing but all you see is XXX across the matinee. You had the nudie theaters, then you had Kung Fu, and then there was the regular theaters to watch movies. And then you walk down the street and there's peep shows and 25-cent booths and VCRs of Peaches bubbles. Peaches does bubbles with her mouth, whatever she's doing.
It was a different time.
Spanish Fly, and I'm like, Mommy, what's Spanish Fly? She said, get your ass over here. So it's like I'm looking at all this stuff, I'm a young mind, and it was just the time. It was crazy. So Flashdance sort of was like a clean glimpse of dancer life. Women who, danced in seedy places. So, yeah.
And Michael Cimbello was the guy who sang that song.
Oh, I always have Michael McDonald on my mind. I don't know why.
that was like I said earlier, there were just movies that would be so influential. And that was one of them, man. Like you said, that everyone wanted to dress like that. The leg warmers. Remember the leg warmer?
Don't rock my leg warmers. What?
Yeah, man, that was the look. Oh my God, it's just making me just think back.
Just her, she was a welder. Like, how freaking awesome is that? By day, you're a welder, and at night, you make it rain.
She was getting it in. Yes, she was dropping
it,
making it hot.
Hustling. So it was an interesting dynamic.
Wow,
that was a great concept for that movie.
I just remember when she pulls the thing in the water, and she's just laid on the chair. That is so iconic, man.
Like that is a
Now
that
in
is
my
a
mind,
beat.
watching that now, I don't that symbolism may ring a little different now as I look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I didn't pick that up when I was a kid. It just literally just hit me right now. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that's what that was about. But it works. I was like, God damn, I didn't
Yeah.
even know why
You
that
know.
worked. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I just that whole movie and the loft. I'm gonna
Yes,
bring it back to Janet Jackson.
yes,
Pleasure
yeah,
Principle.
yeah. There you go. The influence
That
of it. Yeah,
loft scene, those raw spaces,
yeah.
and it was just iconic then in videos and film.
People, you say that. I remember people, and you brought it up. People were living like that. I remember one of my mom's friends. We went to dinner. They lived in downtown Seattle, and they lived. It was an old like abandoned warehouse building or something,
Hmm.
and that was where they lived. It was just it looked, it was just a big, long loft. It
Yeah.
was like a warehouse, but they had their shit in there. And I remember like, wow, this is so cool. It was like, I was like, this is what I've seen on TV, like the Flashdance thing. And
Hmm.
I remember my mom was like, oh, you're going to really like the, and you know what's funny? Till this day, that kind of still sits in the back of my mind. I want something like that.
Same. And the funny thing here in New York, especially the area called the Village, whenever you decide to come to New York, definitely take you on a tour of these places to see. But back then, 80s and 90s, these were raw spaces that were used for artists and painters because they would, do their work there, live there. And after a while, you know, they get wind of these huge spaces that are like dirt cheap. And then finally the artists were ran out of there. And,
Yeah.
now they're different properties and so much money now. You cannot get a loft now for a
Right.
good price.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's now hot commodity now to have that sort of space.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Flash dance.
in
That's crazy.
Carnegie Hall, which is, I'm sure you've heard of Carnegie Hall,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there was a woman, I think she must have passed on now. She had this vast amount of space. Up until the 2000s, she was paying $500 a month for that space.
Wow, that was a steal.
Prime real estate. So all of that is yesteryear, but part of me in my heart of hearts, like I grew up in a brownstone.
Wow.
Love brownstones. It's either brownstone or loft. Those are like my ideal
See, that's
spaces.
that's the type of stuff I grew up wanting to, see and experience.
Do they have brownstones in Seattle?
No, nothing like that here.
Wow.
Not at all. Not at all.
You
This is
gotta see the
more.
brownstones in Harlem.
Yeah,
They're beautiful.
even to this day, I live in a more city downtown sort of atmosphere because in my subconscious mind, I always wanted to live in the thing that you're describing, and this is sort of the closest that I can get to that, without it being like super restrictive, financially.
Right.
But I can walk outside and walk down the sidewalk, and there's tall buildings and some shops and things of that nature. That's just something I've always wanted. And I'm a kid that grew up in a home, on a block with the grass and the backyard, but I always wanted that sort of city environment. And that's why I think I'm so enamored with New York, because I would just, as a kid, I just would always see this imagery, and I was like, oh, there's just something about it. I just feel like I'm supposed to be. The one thing it's kind of funny where I get it too. The King Kong movie. That doesn't sound funny. The King Kong movie from the one that had Jeff Bridges.
Uh-huh.
What was that lady's name? That was she was so gorgeous in that movie. I'll look it up.
I don't know her name.
But that movie, there is a scene after they brought King Kong back to New York, and he broke loose. The Jeff Bridges character and the girl, they run off or whatever, and they're in New York, and they go to this bar, and the bar is like you had to go down the stairs into it, and then when they're sitting in the bar, the city's almost kind of cleared out, but they're in the bar drinking, and you can see the windows, and it's dark, and you can see the train track, subway train thing over it, but there's a street underneath it, and it's just the lights, and it was wet. And there was just something about that. To this day, I want to go to that place. Like that, to me, that's New York in my mind. Like you be outside, it's dark, the train thing is over you. You just can walk for miles, whichever direction. Maybe go in someplace, get a drink or something, and just walking around. That's what. To me, that's what I want. I was like, But I remember it's from that seeing that movie, that King Kong movie. It always.
As funny as it sounds, no one can take away from you the things that resonate, and you're like, wow, there's something that you connected with. And that's how I feel about Paris. Like,
interesting.
Something about Paris that my soul is there.
I can see that in you as well.
Love
There's
Brooklyn,
about it.
but something about Paris that's it. But my wallet cannot afford Paris. Not to live there.
Right.
So I'll be back there for sure. Yeah. And that I attribute to Josephine Baker and Prince, of course, Under the Cherry Moon.
Okay. Yep.
My bucket list, I got to get to Nice one of these days for sure.
Yeah, that to me, that's like a whole other planet. And it shouldn't seem like that to me, but it does. It's just like, wow, that would be.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Now, you've been there before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Went to Paris for the first time in 2017.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. Actually, maybe I've seen some pictures. I think you may have.
Yeah, went to I kissed myself on the steps of Versailles.
Hilarious.
Got that done. I was like, oh, okay, we understand. All right.
Wow. Okay.
It was definitely life-changing. And then the Eiffel Tower, I guess what people feel about the Statue of Liberty is how I feel about the Eiffel Tower.
Interesting.
Just beautiful. So my another 2 trips I like to take is back to Paris and then to Nairobi, Kenya, to go to Giraffe Manor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the things. But but there's things that's funny how when we're children and they stay with us. So you can't ignore those things. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, I'm so cognizant of that now for my kids. Yeah, I don't take any of these things for granted because I'm like, this thing they may actually remember this for the rest of their life. Like whatever it is that we're doing, or sometimes we'll watch something and I'm like, I may think this is kind of silly or something, but I got to remember they are taking this very serious. Like this is shaping.
You are shaping their memory.
Yeah.
No, even with your little girl, she's gonna grow up and she's gonna go, man. I remember my dad would show me this or take me here or we make cookies or whatever. She's going to remember those things. It's so important, just the time. But there's going to be those little things, whether it's the weather that's outside, if it was snowing, if it was raining, if it was sunny, and there's something that's going to click and it's just going to stay there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's I'm not going to go too deep into that, but my other kids are old enough now to sort of, we can have the conversation of something like this, like, and they'll sometimes share with me, like, there was some little thing and it had such an effect on them. And it's interesting to be able to talk to your kids about that. Like, it was just fascinating to me because I was like, wow, I don't remember it like that. Or I just had no idea it would have meant that. But now it's to hear him, like my son, to hear him articulate things to me. And he was like, Dad, remember when we da-da-da-da? And I'm like, oh, you remember that? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, so that's kind of why you like such and such now. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I'm like, okay, wow. Stuff is very important.
Like, yeah, it's important. And when they're young, it's like You're a sponge. Like, I remember things from when I was 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
remember the very first dream that I had,
Oh wow.
and it actually was a nightmare because it was Wolfman Jack's head floating into space.
Wolfman Jack.
Yeah, there was something about his voice that scared the crap out of me. And that was the very first dream that I had. His head was floating in the stars coming at me,
Wow.
and I was done for.
That's hilarious. Wolfman Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
our brains and our minds are impressionable. They soak up things, good memories,
Yeah.
bad. I'm not going to get into that, but you get the scope of it all.
No, absolutely. I said earlier you were a universal person, and one of the things I meant by that, and it's a great memory, and I always mention this every time we talk, but Paisley Park.
Yeah.
My first time coming to Paisley Park. We're a little past the anniversary of that a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 21st of January. And the piano and the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to the second show, so you had already seen the first show.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember me and Tobias, this is both our first times, lifelong Prince fans. We always talked about it. We finally got there. Couldn't believe we got there. Like, just when we drove down the street and saw the building, we damn near lost it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Oh,
a
that in itself, I remember that feeling. Like,
big deal. It's like, oh my
yeah.
God, it's real. And we're about to go in there. I was like, and just, I remember the previous show was still going, so they had us park across the street at the little daycare thing or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they told us to come on and pull in. So we were walking up, and I'm just like, I'm in another headspace because I just can't believe it. And you right at that door. I can't remember if you was inside or just outside the door or in the
No, but
door.
I was inside because I just walked out I just walked out and I was standing in the little atrium there, which is now like the merch area,
Mm-hmm.
just before the door. And you walking in, welcome home, Mr. Dean.
Man,
You made it.
I was like, I will always remember that of you. Like,
Oh.
it's just so imprinted on my mind. And
yeah, and I think that was the first time that was the first time we met.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew who you were.
For all the years.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
just
the first
like,
time
and I was just like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, other than it would have been like Prince himself or like, I don't know, somebody from his band or something. It was that was the best way for me to walk into that.
No.
Like, and it's just so like, I always remember, like I said, I always remember it. It just was like, just what you said, welcome here, welcome home. It made me feel like, it snapped me back to, because I was just so like blown away when I felt like, wow, I'm supposed to be here. Like, you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like, it's inviting. Absolutely. And stuff. It's just
yeah, for what you've done in the purple community and the audience that you've built up, absolutely belong there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was incredible. That was just such a, and then just, of course, the show was. It was overwhelming. I guess that's all I could say. It's just overwhelming.
Definitely. I remember posting something a couple of years back. I don't know if it was 2011 or something. And I was like, I don't know about you guys. I'm ready. I'm ready for stripped down piano show, just Prince. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Years later, it happened. So that was a dream come true, but also something very otherworldly about that show. It was just something, just the somberness and the rawness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Especially just walking into there and hearing the music from Memoirs of a Geisha, the song Confluence was on. It was it was a different sort of feeling. We weren't walking in there with DJ music playing. It was just very calm, serene. Um, I'll never forget it. And I still think I've listened to it maybe once or twice, just the little shows that run around, but I can't listen to it from beginning to end. I do hope that it gets released at some point through the estate as
Mm-hmm.
a complete package, because for me, I know that I know the final show was in Atlanta. I didn't attend that show, but for most of us, that was his last performance in his home. So it deserves
Yeah.
a special treatment. If they want to incorporate, the rest of the final shows, that's fine. But that to me is the pinnacle and of that experience. And yeah.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I haven't listened to it
I
in
can't.
its entirety at all either. Maybe I've heard maybe 10, 15 minutes at best.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to listen to it unless it's released in the most respectful way.
Yeah.
And listening to you talk about it like that, we've had some great special editions and all that. This one needs to be the special edition. I frankly don't care how much they charge for it.
I don't either, because I would hope that it is a combination of um,
It should be the
visuals,
video, the audio, the show, yeah, all of it.
video, audio, all of it together.
Yeah.
And also, maybe even a little very well done spread of the preparation leading up to piano and a microphone.
Yeah.
Because
It should have
remember, look how things work out. At least I think too much sometimes, but Prince was supposed to be prior to in December at the Garnier in Paris, because I was thinking about going to that show. Man, my birthday's coming up. I'm going to do it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, wow, this is gorgeous. Imagine seeing Prince in Paris, blah, blah, blah. My point to that is that horrible tragedy happened at the Bataclan. And this is why they now retrofitted this event to happen now at Paisley Park. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got this portion of the show, possibly.
Wow.
So it worked out. Not worked out. I don't know. It came together to where people here in the state could see him, those last shows.
Yeah,
because I think he went to Australia. He did get to Australia last time. And because the terrorist thing happened there, decided to do it here in Minneapolis. So it definitely needs to show all of them laying the carpet at Paisley, the pillows, whole setup. Make that a real nice coffee table book, a whole package.
Yeah.
For that Paisley Park show would really be special. The only thing I will mention that I did hear, which just brought me so much joy because I couldn't believe it. And if anybody knows me, they know I love Charlie Brown and I love me some Dirty Mind. So when I heard Prince play Dirty Mind and Peanuts theme, I lost it. That was spectacular. And I wish that, that has to be released in its proper form. And shout out to Scotty Baldwin, who did the sound for that, because it was.
Yeah. He needs to be involved in that. And
and just putting that together.
That, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That 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 performance and just that whole time is like one of the reasons why you know, if you see somebody, you got to tell them you love them. Like if that's what, you know what I mean? Like, cause you never know you're going to get another opportunity. And that's just, to me, that whole situation is that you can't waste no time, because it could be the last time, or it could just, you know what I mean? Just so many things that you don't anticipate could happen. But you had the opportunity, and there was a lot of opportunities in this whole situation for whatever that opportunities are. And you know, you can put that opportunity off. You're not going to get another chance at it. You never know. And just to me, that whole thing just proved like you don't never know how something could turn out. So if you got the opportunity, take it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were spoiled. I've seen Prince well over 100 times, and I would never ever think that January 21st would be the last show.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this Paisley Park has undergone renovations. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, museum is being set up, like, or maybe he's setting up for, all right, y'all come to me now, which I wouldn't hesitate, you know. So thought you had time and you had all this moments and opportunities to him host you in his home, his studio, travel to go to concert. And he was just always had output, always working. But I guess in this, I kind of wish he would have just stopped to take care of himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Opportunities. But,
Yep.
you know.
But, you know, he I'm sure he didn't want to disappoint, you know, fans, and kept going and kept moving and kept working. And
yeah, that's a whole.
Yeah.
You could, yeah.
I don't want to go down that road, but you know what? We're blessed. We're blessed. We're blessed. We're blessed. We have this music, and
Absolutely.
I just hold dear in my, how I hold up my end of the bargain is, I remember hearing him say, and during our live show, you know, y'all come down to Paisley Park, you take care of it. So my holding up my bargain is making sure continue to go to Paisley Park and support. And I encourage everybody, go out there, take a trip, take your family. I find it to be peaceful there. Even him not there, there's something about it that when I'm there, I forget about time. I forget about whatever else is going on, because it feels like I'm home. Like Minneapolis is my second home. I've like traveled back and forth over the years there, you know, since my, you know, late teens, early 20s. So been doing this my whole life.
Wow.
So, and many others. I'm sure there's others who their concert count is much more. And
you be at some concerts.
Yeah. You know, unlike Michael Jackson, and this is nothing disparaging to him, he had his way of reaching out to fans, but Prince was like, y'all come on down to Paisley Park and we're gonna do a show. Like that in itself is the connection that we all met. You know, it's not like, oh, so and so, this prolific person passed. All right, okay, fine, you move on from it. It's not that for many of us. You know, he felt like family. And yeah, that was the difference. Yeah. Even now, you know, I wonder I always have these thoughts in my head, like the quantum realm, if you will. I go, man, with Prince, what would Prince do now? With everything with this pandemic, maybe we would get virtual shows, or who knows?
Yeah, it's I always wonder, and maybe the newer artists or people will take this even more into consideration. But I always wonder if people like Prince, Michael, if they really got how strong their energy was in terms of pulling people together and the magnitude of what they really meant to people, aside from them being, superstars and I have fans, people going crazy at a show. I wonder if they really understood, like looking at how the Prince community is now and how it's always been, really, but it is so, we are so connected. Even just having this conversation, we're so like,
I think Prince, I can't speak for Michael. I think Prince had to have known, because you're seeing many of the same faces. You're getting to know somewhat the people who are coming to your shows and who are walking through the doors of your home, especially during celebration. I think he knew. I think he knew how much he was loved.
Well, it's not about, I'm not even speaking of how much they're loved. I'm like, in terms, like
just the power of what they brought.
Yeah, like what, we we're originally going to talk about the Purple Rain club housequake thing, like the level of people putting in all of this work towards something that spawns from Prince. The spirit of excellence and time being put into preservation of information about Prince, the websites that are extensive, detail oriented, the books, and just the conversations. I wonder though that you realize, like, is actually kind of bigger than me almost. You know what I mean? Like, because he's not here right now and is full on right now. Like, there's scholarly debate conversations. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if he realized, like, wow, this thing is, people, what I mean? It's like, it's one thing to say, yeah, they love me. But it's another thing to realize, like, man, there are people dedicating their lives to the preservation, of this work. And, and they're being motivated to do things. And whether I have anything to do with it or not, they are doing some wow. I just wonder if artists really, I don't know if there's been a time where artists could reflect like that to be able to understand that this is kind of grown into something way bigger. I don't know if an artist should even think like that.
I think they should. Prince's work could definitely be taught in college curriculum. Look at the fantastic symposiums that D'Angelo Duff has put on, or the podcast, or Prince.Vault, or the website, the groups. Everything has circled back to the work and the music. So it's definitely bigger now. And I hope wherever Prince is, he's probably like, oh, y'all get it now. I hope that's the thing. And we're all connected by these fibers and this whole purple world. And it's great because, we've been keeping up with this from our childhood. Now we're grown adults and still learning and still have that sense of wonder and want to explore more. And it's a beautiful thing, really. It's a special thing. Like, Prince was our Black Mozart. who could delve into all these genres, and then to have the people who are your fans grow up and become successful in their own right and do all these great things.
Yeah.
That shows the influence.
You got people married, and you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
just so many deep, you know what I'm saying? It's like it goes to so deeper levels. Like, it's like people are in relationships, and you've probably got kids that were spawned because of the parents' shared love of this thing brought them together. And it's just like, it's incredible. Like,
sort of like a prerequisite. Must be a Prince fan.
some things, yeah, like it's a certain shared, just like any other sort of cultural thing. Like, oh, you're into, you know, hip hop or something. Well, you must, you know, I only deal with people that can respect black this or a political thing. People decide life choices and stuff. And Prince is one of those types of things where that's you know, it's a certain mindset almost where it's like, oh, you're a Prince fan. Off the top, that means something.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. You know what I mean? It's a certain vibe. Like you say, you can go to a Prince show and you know there's going to be it's a certain vibe. You know, there's not going to be fighting.
No, that's,
you know what I
one
mean? It's
thing
not
about-
it's not about
yeah,
that.
Thank goodness we've never been to any sort of arena.
No shooting.
Nothing. Always peaceful. Always love. Even after the after parties, Prince is right in front of us. He never ever has to worry about his safety. You know, with the exception of that old girl that ran up there with no drawers on and jumped on.
Maybe a little overzealous with the love.
We don't count her. You know, not one of us. But you know, other than that, you know, even at Paisley Park, you walk up and down, and he knows that.
Yeah,
he's
the
okay.
respect. Yes,
Respect is there.
the respect is off the top, and the expectation that you better respect this when you come in here. That's, you know, there's the security, and then there's the security fans that's not gonna go for no foolishness. Not in here.
Not in here.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna get mauled.
Yeah, you know, and that's a beautiful, special thing. You know. Yeah, it's very interesting, and we're in a phase now of we're in the after Prince was alive era. You know, the sort of the immediately after he's passed era. It hasn't transitioned to the, you know, sort of the after that part. I'm curious what it's going to be, and I guess we can look at other people who have passed and see how their thing has sort of changed. Like I would look at like a Jimi Hendrix and stuff.
Yeah, he's someone for me. Like, I've never seen Jimi Hendrix, but I am a fan of his work. I got into Jimi in the early '90s.
Okay. Yep. And so that's way after he passed. You know, that was a different era, but it was the resurgence, and then the younger generation discovers it, and everything was in place for us to learn about it and to be introduced. You know, for me, Jimi Hendrix is very interesting because, like you, I had heard of it, but I never took the time until later. But I know that he was from my area. You know, he's a Seattle guy, right?
Yeah.
And it was in the late 90s, 2000s, I met a gentleman, Sammy Drain, who he would kind of have been like Jimmy's Andre Simone.
Wow, okay.
They was boys, grew up together. They both played guitar. They look very similar, kind of. And then at a certain point, Jimmy becomes a star and leaves, you know. But he still remembered Sammy. And so Sammy took on the thing where, you know, of course, the estates and all of that, they control Jimi Hendrix, what you see. But I was there with him. So I'm going to take it upon myself to create a museum, create sort of my love for him in my garage. And I'm going to go back out and start doing music again like we used to do it and I'm going to ride for Jimmy if anyone decides to listen to me. And I had heard of him because he was always performing in the town at the, some of the local spots. And somehow me and him clicked, and I was in a position to help him with his music stuff. And I was the younger brother. And you can take care of this for me. And so he was just showing me like all the stuff. He's like, come over and let me, and he would have the books and the photo books and the news clippings. So, let me, that, and he was, and I recognized what he was. I recognized what he was doing. At first, I just was like, oh, this is just some older cat. I think what he's doing is cool, but I don't really understand it. But then when I caught on to what it was, I was like, yo, he's trying to show me the game, like from the other side of the superstar cat, like, and really kind of show, you're not going to see this in the mainstream. You're not going to promote this side of it. They don't have these stories. And I was really just soaking it up, and he was trying to get some money and funding to really put a thing together for Jimmy. And he ended up passing away a few years ago. But I always remember Sammy Drain. Like, I have things that me and him did, or he would give me recordings or videos of things to do, and pictures and stuff. And I just remember like, wow, I could only imagine if someone came across a guy that was to Prince that was like this. And the closest thing I can think of, like I said, he would be like a Andre Simone. He didn't have the success of it, but he was the guy. He was the one that was there, and he was trying to do his best to respect and put Jimmy's name out there and show the other side. And like I said, I was saying all that in the context of that was many years after he passed. But there were people doing the thing, and how I was able to understand. I got a respect for Jimi Hendrix based off of what Sammy Drain was talking about, and let me see, like, no, this wasn't just some superstar that you just hear about from Rolling Stone or something. No, that was Joe brother. You know what I mean? Like, he was our thing. It's just been co-opted to make you think that he ain't got nothing to do with, our culture in a sense, the way you should be thinking about him. And I say that about Prince, like, I hope that we can, which is great now, because the thing was, Jimmy did not have our type of generation who had access to technology and all of this type of stuff, where we can become the front line of the narration and the love and everything that Sammy was trying to do. We're doing it now on a way bigger level, because we have more access to things, and we know how to use it, and we can make our voice heard. And that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast the way I do, because I remember what Sammy Drain was doing. And if only more people would have gotten to see that, I think a later generation that I would be a part of, that was years after, could probably have learned a little more earlier about him and learned more stuff about it while these people were alive to give us this information.
Yes.
And that's the thing, we're in the presence of all the people that was really around Prince, for the most part, are still here. And we can get the direct narration and stories and the feel from them.
Given that it's factual, because you know what's going on now.
Right. Well, there's always going to be that part. But the thing is, when these people were gone,
that's going to be it.
It's going to be it. And you won't even be able to argue the facts. You're just going to get the narration from something else that may not even want to talk about those people. So you won't really get the deeper stories to question, because it's just going to be the marketable stories, which is a big difference. It's just the people that they think, if I put this person's face, it's going to reach more people, because that's what the mainstream audience will look like. And so they may more identify with their story, and their story could only be half, not even half the story, but will become the story.
Correct. Yeah. That's a
And
shame.
yeah,
Just like now, like they're gonna purple rain us to death. There's so much more.
right,
There's so many different things that we can explore. But going back to Jimmy, Jimmy's the architect of this, and there'd be no Prince without Jimmy. So I had to do the
right,
research
right.
and listen to Jimmy and go to Electric Ladyland and later on finally make it out to London and see where he lived,
Mm-hmm.
and that was big. I'm like, wow, we had jam sessions in here and imagine what London was in the 1960s. And it was just a great experience to sort of get a glimpse as to what it was like. And of course, Jimmy's style was bar none. And me, as a lover of fashion, was one of the things is great to see his outfit and so, but still connect to the music.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the core of it all. And
it's such a
I
small window that he had too. It was so powerful.
yeah, very, very small window. So that's why the people who are getting into Prince now and they're much younger, they have so much to sort of reference and to dig into. So it's great. But as far as Jimmy goes, he wasn't played on the radio much.
Mm-hmm.
Even Black radio, that's a whole different conversation, is why program directors, you weren't, and I guess because certain artists did not fit in a particular genre, Jimi Hendrix, Lenny Kravitz, all of these different rockers, and even beyond that, like why aren't we hearing them on the radio?
Mm-hmm.
So you had to sort of, find out what they're doing and what they're about on your own time, not through, the regular channels. So it's interesting.
That is interesting. Like, and we grew up in a time where music was heavily segregated. Like you said, a Lenny Kravitz or even a Prince for that. You're doing rock music, like as opposed like it's something other
like
than
foreign. Where we created it,
right?
This is beyond.
Versus today, I almost feel like they just eliminated rock music.
Yep.
In a sense, so it's not even a conversation of or what kind of music you're doing. Like you can do any type of music you want, but it's almost like, well, we're removing that really from the conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like, yeah, I mean, we would tear rock up, and I'm saying in a good way. When we do, I mean, that's our shit. But it's almost like it's almost like, man, it's not marketable enough even for other people to do it, because that's what's going to sell more, putting a Cardi B out here versus whoever the top rock guy may be. Mm-hmm. Even that's been determined that it's not marketable enough. It ain't really got nothing to do with the music. It's just like, right. I'll make more money putting this out because I can sell all this other stuff with it. So there's no even reason to even promote rock music. Like, just let it be its own little small thing.
Own entity. That's crazy and wild. So that's what happens when you have business people who have no idea about music or creativity at the table and not giving that opportunity for artists to really shine in their areas. Rock, you're not going to do that. Even country. I'm not a country music fan per se. There's some songs I like, but there are a lot of Black people, older generations, they listen to country music because that was what was on the radio.
Right.
So it's interesting. Even, before Rihanna was Fifi Dobson. They forget about her. But because they didn't know what to do with her, she just sort of get at the wayside.
And it's almost like, I almost feel like that's about to be rap. Yeah. It's just like, there's no point. it's not that marketable. It is marketable, but it's almost like I'd rather just pull out the personality and just sell that. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we don't even need the rap anymore. Even though that became the dominant musical genre, it's almost like that actually is. I could see them positioning that out, and it's almost like again, it doesn't even matter what kind of music you do. Whatever's the thing that's got the attention, R&B. Like, R&B, doesn't even matter. Like, they don't even. There's excellent R&B artists out there, more than ever. But for whatever reason, they're just not like marketable enough to like. It's almost like there'll never be even another Bobby or Usher, and these are the later type of guys. But they won't even have that no more. Maybe the closest thing I would say would be Bruno. But it almost feels like even that, as exceptionally talented and as great as the music is, that's not really enough.
No.
Where he's not even going to be in that position anymore. You know what I mean? Like, the talent is all there and it's all there, but he does not present the personality that I seem like is the thing that is for sale. Like, he's not in the scandals. He's not all on social media talking crazy. It's not a whole bunch of videos coming out. Mm-hmm. It's just the music. And the music, I feel like ain't really enough. Even for a guy like that, who was at the top. And they gave him Grammy of the Year, deserved it. But now I kind of was like, it seemed like he just fades out.
He got flack for a moment too because of Mark Ronson and just thinking that he was sort of, jacking the time at that particular, moment. But Bruno Mars has always been in the game, since he was a kid.
Yeah.
I myself am just like awakening to Bruno Mars because, again, I wasn't like a fan like that. To me, he was just like pop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was the same way.
Yeah. Him now merging this project he did with Anderson .Paak. I'm like, oh. And then he grew a little mustache, and I was like, oh.
Hilarious.
So, that particular project at the moment is just perfect. It might not go beyond this album, but it's a formula that's refreshing right now. But no, It's definitely not enough. And I also forgot to mention Terrence Trent D'Arby, who is now Sonata Maitreya. They weren't playing him except for Sign Your Name.
Right.
So when you have artists who sort of are different and unique, there's no place for you, really.
Yes, and it's another artist I wanted to ask you about, sort of in the same frame of what we're going. And let me say, you're universal again, because it was the other night I'm watching YouTube, and I'm in my zone. I'm in my music zone at the moment. I had me a little couple edibles. So I'm vibing to some music. I'm like in my music shit. I love it. And I was watching some clips, and then I'll be like, I'll get into a thing like, oh, I want to hear some live such and such. And I was like, man, let me listen to some live D'Angelo. Let me watch some videos on the big screen. So I put on some North Jazz Fest or something.
North Sea Jazz Festival.
I'm watching. I've seen some of it before, and I'm watching. I'm like, and I'm in the space where I'm like, damn, this shit is dope. Like, you can just lose yourself in the music and the rhythm, and just like, and D'Angelo likes to jam, so you can really just kind of sit in the groove. And I was just like, oh, this brother is cold. I'm watching it, and then here come your face. And I was like, what? I stopped it real quick. I was like, is that Tamil? What the heck? I'm like, what's in this shit? I'm like, damn, this shit is crazy. And I rewinded back, and I'm like, ain't this about a bitch? She was at this show. I was like, this can't be like just some random, again, because I'm like, I always see her in these funny ways, like at the right time. And I immediately pulled my phone out and I kind of recorded that part, I posted it online and tagged you on it. And I bring all that to say, D'Angelo
Yeah, that's another
is
artist who,
so like,
that's that dude. That's that dude.
like one
And
of these guys. Go
I have
ahead.
a story for that. I got into, I mean, of course, voodoo as one of the, as far as I'm concerned, greatest. It's up there with the greatest. That voodoo, that came out. It sounded like a conjuring of the ancestors, a conjuring of something else that we weren't hearing. Because again, they'll peg you into, neo soul, that term, but he really just tapped into something else. And he'd been out for a moment because, for me, when I thought about D'Angelo and Chico DeBarge, that's sort of like cornrows and braids, hip hop, R&B tip. But then he just went into something else. So when the Voodoo Tour came out, the first night, I think it was March, and the first night I was supposed to go, it was canceled because he had a sore throat or something like that. So it was rescheduled, went to the show. Mike, let me tell you, 2 hours plus of a show, concert. And I'm seeing before me pieces of James Brown, pieces of Prince, and then himself just evolving as an artist. And that was it for me. I'm like, I'm all in. Whenever D'Angelo comes out to tour, I'm there. So yeah, I went to see the Voodoo Tour. And then, of course, we all know he sort of disappeared. And fast forward, get Black Messiah coming out. And I'm like, I'm there. So it was my first time at the North Sea Jazz Festival. And what I was just blown away by the Netherlands. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And that concert was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And just orderly. There's different levels. And if one artist was performing, so before he went on, Mary J. Blige was performing. And then you sort of just can walk into different places and see whom you want to see. So Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, that was fantastic. You go back in and get your spot. So, me, my sister Vonda, we went, and Dr. Patrice Austin, she was there as well. And it was just great. And I had no idea. So at this point, I've gone to I had a few concerts under my belt from the Black Messiah. I felt like I went on a tour, actually. That's how many shows I went to. And shout out to Kendra Foster and Jermaine and Red. And of course, Jesse Johnson, who joined them, just the whole band. That was a tight band. So anyway, we've seen the show. Of course, at this point, we know the choreography, the whole thing. I had no idea that for the majority of the show, the Jumbotron is filming because I'm in the front. And finally, when we're leaving and we're on our way to the metro, like, people in there asking, oh, we see you on the screen, we see you. And I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm like, I smile and wave or whatever. And finally get back home to the States and look on YouTube, boom, it's there in history forever to watch. So 2015, needless to say, was a fantastic year for just seeing all these shows. Oh, and to bring it back to Prince, I also went to the show D'Angelo played at First Avenue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was wall to wall. But here's the kicker. The last minute, Prince announces, something that, going on at Paisley Park. I believe it was Liv Warfield and a couple other people who were going to be playing, but Prince didn't play. So just imagine, like, to quote you as a headbuster. I'm like,
oh man,
yo, I got D'Angelo's playing. Then after I leave here, I'm on my way to Paisley Park. It was just kismet. It was just fantastic. And, I don't know. Of course, there were ramblings, or of course, there was a tweet from Questlove just mentioning, like, hey, you don't come check us out. We're holding up your legacy. So he was sort of disappointed that Prince didn't come through and show up for that show.
Is that when? And I've heard the story when I don't know if it was the same visit, but they do go to Paisley Park and it's Prince, D'Angelo, and Quest, and they kind of have their little thing.
I don't think that's the same thing. As far as I know that he tweeted shortly afterwards, like, "Where's the love? We're holding you up, holding you down." Like, hold on, I was like thinking at the time, holding up the legacy. He's still alive.
I would one day I'll interview Questlove, and that's one of we're gonna go into that. We're gonna get into that time, because that time I remember was a lot of. There was a lot of smoke for Prince.
It was
them liner notes. What's my man who wrote that? The poet guy. I can't think of his name right now. He's the actor too. He's in the movie Slam. What's that brother's name? He's phenomenal. You know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about, but
I know we
brain fog.
But I remember when them liner notes came out. And it kind of seemed like they was trying to get at, it was kind of, D'Angelo is the new, he's, the way it was kind of framed. Mm-hmm. And
he's a new this. And
I was like, okay, stop it. Like, y'all don't want to do that. But, I remember that at that time. And I remember when Voodoo came out, and some people will argue, I would argue that album, influences Rainbow Children. It's like I could see Prince like, oh, okay, oh, y'all, okay, let me show y'all how. Let me get in the studio. let me let these young boys, y'all quit playing.
Let them know.
But I love that part, because that time
it keeps the music and creativity fresh.
Yeah.
You get that sort of friendly competition. It's all love, but you're like, all right,
I'm on your neck, bro. Yeah, and it was the young boys, and it was great because Prince had been in that position before. When he was coming, Rick James and all that, and he was the young cat coming in, like stomping the door down, and there was like other cats like, hey man, what the hell you we let you in, you gonna come in and show me, but that's hey. Steel sharpens steel. You know what I'm saying? And so to see it come around for somebody like Prince, and like everybody, it felt like the industry was like, oh, this the new. What you gonna do now, partner? And and the thing about it, and I don't have the young lady's name in front of me, but one of the people I follow online, they were doing it wasn't on Clubhouse, it was Spaces, the Twitter version. But they were doing a Maxwell versus D'Angelo versus, right?
Oh, okay.
And they played Untitled. Mm-hmm. And again, I was in my super music zone when I came across it. So when Untitled came on, it just rocked me. Like, I was like, listening to it so many years removed, I was just like, God, this is such a love letter to Prince in the most loveliest of ways. It's just like, ugh. And I'm listening and I'm like, gosh, they were for them to put that single out and then to have that type of talk going on. I was like, I can imagine Prince looked at that and was like, I'm just speculating, like, these niggas is trying to really come from my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they gonna put out a song that wouldn't exist if I didn't exist.
Come on now.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, and the fact that it was Raphael Sadiq, and I'm sure Prince was like, I'll put this nigga on. Like, what? And I was like, God, they was really, I mean, to me, I can listen to it and I'm sure you can hear that they loved Prince.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's like they were like his children almost. Like they came up in the same way when I was saying Janet earlier. It's like she's just so influenced by Michael and Prince. It's just oozing out of her. And the way that D'Angelo came out, it was oozing out of him to the point where they just literally just did a Prince song. And I was just like, that was so dope of a period. I want people to continue to talk about that period as well because, you know, for me, D'Angelo, I went to the Brown Sugar show, and I wasn't. You know what? I wasn't a super fan of him. I mean, it was just the first album had been out and it was kind of bubbling, and I bought it and I listened to it, and right off the gate, I was like, this guy. I was like, am I hearing Prince in this? And I was just kind of like, this is an interesting record. And so he came to Seattle. He played a very small, incidentally, he played a place Prince ended up playing later, but it was a very small, intimate show. And he would just sit down at the piano and was playing. But when I saw him live, I was like, wow, this guy has to be a Prince fan. I was like, to me, it just felt like he was doing Prince, you know, audio-wise. The way he was singing, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But I was like, wow, this, I was shocked that he was just sitting down. And I was like, he's not ready yet, but I can hear it. I was like, he's going to be a problem. It was after I saw that concert, then I went back and really jumped into the album hardcore because I could finally understand what he was doing. And I was like, he has to be a Prince fan. Just no way around it. And so then later when Voodoo finally comes and they drop that, I was like, he's not only a Prince fan, but he has to be a hardcore, you know, he's that hardcore music fan who's also a hardcore Prince fan. And I was like, and then you could hear it.
Pepper and Questlove with that.
Yeah, and you could tell they were together, and I was and I was like, you could hear the little sly things they were doing in the songs and reference. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. So that at that point, I even started thinking, I'm like, man, they tighten it up on like I was like when I used to think of the time and not knowing the connection, I was like, oh, the time is burning Prince. Like they literally on his neck, not knowing that was him, but just as a musician listening. So when I heard them, I was like, I know Prince ain't playing on this, but I was like, yeah, they're not even trying to be nice about it. Like it was just like they got his, you know what, to me, D'Angelo he had the feel of it.
Yeah.
It was just a feel to the music that you either got it or you don't.
Or you didn't. Yep.
And he had it. Yeah.
It's still that thing.
Yeah.
And then when you factor in that strong church background, you put in Jesse Johnson, Pino Palladino, background vocalist, Chris Daddy Dave. That's a gumbo.
Yeah, that Voodoo tour band.
Oh, and then now
that
go
was
back.
Just
Let's go further back. Now,
ridiculous.
those background singers, you had Anthony Hamilton and Shelby J.
Yeah, before you even knew what the hell. At least I didn't know who they were, but I knew they was badass. But then after where they end up going, I was like, okay, we should have known. Like that was the new revolution right there. Like, it was, you know, Questlove and like I said, Pino. That band, They was on some. To me, now see, my thing is when I heard them, I just was like, oh, and again, that's why I knew they were Prince fans. I was like, oh, these niggas are just literally listening to parade rehearsals or tours or something, and they're just doing that. That's what it sounded like to me. I was like, I have to love this, because to me, this sounded like Prince 87 or something. They have to be listening to that. There's no way they're not literally mimicking that. That's, I could just hear it, the feel of the concerts.
When you hear Charade,
yeah.
all parade.
Yeah. Is it Charade? What's the song? Yeah, Charade is Blondie, right? I don't know if you ever put that together.
Charade from Black Messiah, to me, it just the rock element to it, the tempo, it gives me the feeling of, parade session.
Yeah.
Could be Blondie.
I mean, literally, if you, I did this on the show years ago, that the way that it's just that is actually a riff from the song Blondie. Like, that's how sly and intricate, they were fans, because they were literally just pulling, like, you would have to be a hardcore fan to even hear that. But it's literally, they pulled that lick from Blondie, and then they looped it and made a song out of it. That's why I was like, oh, these niggas are really into Prince. It's like, yeah, that's crazy.
And if you think about it, it came to a point. Prince really didn't have anybody in the game, like in the 90s, that you could say is like competition. He's just going and doing his thing. So now you have D'Angelo sort of brewing. And I think it was a good thing. It was a good thing.
Yeah, it was just like I said, it was his fluent. He got to see his influence in live person. It was literally kids, I call them kids that was so influenced by him, and they just wore it on their sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a great thing, because then he could look at it and say, I create, this is spawned from me. Like, I can see my work.
Those are his students.
Yeah, I see my work. And they they looked at him that way. They literally was calling him Yoda, right? Like, they looked at him as the holy grail for what they were doing. And it was like, okay, let's study. We're studying under this. We want to let him know we love him so much that we're going to literally incorporate his shit all into our stuff. And the fact that they were like I said, Raphael Sadiq, Quest, D'Angelo, you could just see his influence on them. And they were sort of like coming from that neo soul thing. But to me, it just showed you, well, this is what's really sort of the underpin under all of that stuff. And it makes sense, because he would have been the dominant artist when they were kids. And they probably were raised listening to this music. So it would have to embed itself in everything that they do, the same way hip hop embedded itself in everything they did as well, right? So that's what I'm saying. When you go back to those, they were neck and neck with each other, rap music and Prince. And if you came up in those times, you couldn't help but be a sponge for all of that. So when you do R&B, of course, you grew up as a hip hop kid, so that is in you, but you also grew up under Prince and Michael. And if you're a musician, you really grew up under Prince and like studied that, and it couldn't help but show. And Maxwell, to me, is the same. You can definitely see the influence in Maxwell and what he was doing.
And even Prince sort of softened and opened up himself to the idea of rap and hip hop. He clowned it at first with Bob George.
Yep.
He started doing it himself. Many people, might not have felt it too much, but it all sort of blended together. And even Prince himself, he incorporated people who influenced him: Joni Mitchell, Larry Graham,
right?
fly. So, hopefully he understood that he was doing the same thing for others. But he wasn't going to let you rock like that. He's going to
Well, yeah,
put you
because he's
back in
highly
your place.
competitive. Yeah, he's still very much like, nah, I ain't going nowhere. What are you
I
talking
know.
about? Like, I'm going in. And
Yep.
yeah, that's why I said it's a good thing. He was still able to battle. When I say battle, I mean, like, because you mentioned Joni Mitchell, James, Sly, or Larry Graham. At the points when they would have linked up with a Prince, they wouldn't be like still putting out stuff to be on the front line.
Yeah,
You
no,
know what I
he was
mean?
actually, he brought them back out, if anything,
Right.
to just
But
give them
Prince
their
was like,
respect.
nah, y'all not putting me back on the front, nigga. I'm gonna be, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't done. Stop
Put me out the
playing.
pasture.
Yeah, don't act like I'm not in the game or something, brother. And that's because, so he had that energy. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, cute. But I'm still coming. I'm gonna come with something, and that's great, and that was a great thing. But only a Prince could be in that position because he
Absolutely. To
was
reinvent.
music. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he wasn't sitting down for nothing, and I love that too.
I wonder if no, there's a dumb question, but I'm saying it anyway. Like, I wonder if he ever got into a rut. I don't think so, because he's always thinking about music in that way, always reinventing.
That's an
Whereas
interesting
someone else
question.
wouldn't be able to, like, oh man, I'm in a writing rut right now. I can't, get that
Right.
vision going. So,
See, I could say in my fan opinion, I think there might be times, I don't know if rut would be the word, but less inspired moments.
mm-hmm,
I could kind of think maybe they just didn't resonate with me.
mm-hmm.
I could, in my opinion, I would say that at times it got me. Sometimes gotten to sometimes I was like, this stuff is cool, but man, you're so much bigger than this.
Mm-hmm,
Like,
mm-hmm.
stop playing. What are you doing? Maybe
Or
you just
he,
need some energy around you or something, or
yeah, or he would do 20 remixes of "Come On." I love the song. I guess that's him being inspired and like, oh, let me try it this way, let me try it that way. But as far as like some less inspired project, I'm gonna say Purple and Gold.
hilarious.
And the entire F. I said to
Wow.
myself I wasn't gonna speak of that song again. I shall not.
Purple and gold. Yeah, that's a classic. But I mean, what may be less inspired to us could be the
Yeah, it
thing that
might
got
be
another
anthems
person
for
into it.
him. Yeah.
So I get it. Man, wow, we've been on here for a minute. Just something else I wanted to. Shit. Unless you got something out, I just drew a blank. Well, we were talking about we ended up talking about D'Angelo and Bruno, some of those guys. Oh, and the concerts you went to. Let's see. What's the one concert you want to see now? If in alive or dead, if you could go to one dream concert, who would that be?
Ooh,
Besides Prince.
that's a good question. Bjork.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I definitely want to see her live. I don't know why it doesn't line up for me to get there, but definitely Bjork. I've seen her DJ before. Some little small goth rock spot in Brooklyn, but I've never seen her perform. I'm gonna check out Silk Sonic in a couple of weeks. That's gonna
Right.
be fun. Yeah, and then I have to say it would have been Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
Yeah. So I said two. I said one who's not here and one who's still with us.
I was trying to think if I wanted, how would I want to see alive or dead? Like, You know, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I would love to see them. I would love to see if the main concert or the main attraction would be Sade, because I've never seen her live before.
Oh, she's amazing
I
live.
would love to see her live, but you know who I want to see open up, and it could just be really just one song I really want to hear them sing, but I just think it would be incredible.
Opening for Sade?
Yeah, this sounds
Okay.
so goofy.
No?
Michelle A. I just want to hear her do something in my heart. I tell you, it'll sound crazy, but
I can't. Yes.
that would be crazy.
Did you have an edible?
No, I told you it's gonna sound crazy. But I'm just like,
Indeed it does.
man, like just
Hey.
them two singers. Like I just love female singers. Like they sing, and that song, "Something in My Heart," is one of my favorite songs of all time. Period. Just for whatever reason, I love that. I recently
Beautiful
saw her
song,
sing it
really,
on.
it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it just would be. It's just so out there, like Michelle A. But I was like, the one song, and just and she would come. Okay, you got. I mean, I would blow my mind. I was like, what? But then she
We're
just
gonna
gonna
let
do
you
it.
have that in the metaverse.
I told y'all. It'd be crazy. It's my dream. That's my dream show.
Oh, yep. That's your dream.
And
Good
then,
dream.
of course, Sade would come out and just kill it. But yeah, that would be those or I would love to see, I don't know if the show would be good, but it would be powerful to me. And if it was especially in a small club, Tupac.
Okay, I could definitely
that would be
understand that.
wild.
Because you've definitely had a wide audience. His impact as a person, as an artist, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
I could
You
see
know,
it. See, it was just like Daddy. Oh yeah. I was like,
I know.
oh shit.
Do you remember they did that hologram? That was very weird.
Oh,
Very
that's
creepy. He's standing there, his
crazy.
90s clothes. That was so weird.
That is such. And that was
Not
early too, like doing something like that.
Yeah, and it was
And
very strange. So now they have Whitney one now,
Right.
which I think is disrespectful, but that's my opinion.
sadly, I believe that would be the future. I believe
Yeah, I
it.
mean, there's a, you ever seen that singing show where they're presenting themselves as their avatar? And then when they after they sing, when they're done, then you see who they are. I forgot what it's called. It's a recent show.
No, I haven't heard of that. That sounds crazy.
I'll send it
Is that kind of like
to
the
you.
hidden singer type of deal or something? But
Yeah, sort of like that. But they're
interesting.
presenting themselves like sort of like if they build their own avatars. It kind of looks like Japanese anime,
Huh.
and they're
Interesting.
presenting as how they would want to feel and look.
Mm-hmm.
And they sing the song. Judges have no idea what they look like. And then afterwards, then you see who they are. So I'm like, when I looked at this, I said, this is where we're heading.
Yeah.
You know, some Black Mirror stuff. This is where we're heading. Because people are not going to be as invested in the person, sadly, because they haven't gone through the journey. They don't know what it's like to wait outside all night for a ticket, or
Right.
follow a person and watch them grow up and grow, and so on and so forth.
Sadly, they're very true. And the ultimate marketability. If it's purely in a business, how they would probably think, well, who's going to be bigger than Michael Jackson himself? Right.
Yeah.
The music's already there. He already laid the groundwork down, and we can show him to you where it tricks your mind and think he's really there.
Yeah.
Why invest in anything
technology is
else? Yeah. Why invest in any other artist? They ain't gonna be as big as Michael Jackson. So we own Michael Jackson. Why not just roll him right back out there?
I kind of feel like Michael, he sort of did stuff like that when it would go. So I don't think he would be as offended by a hologram.
Mm-hmm.
Just from a film perspective, I'm not
Yeah.
sure how his family or fans would feel about something like that. I just know from the Whitney thing, what I've seen is very strange. And
It's
there's
very
people
strange.
who are like, "Oh, it was great because I've never seen her before." Those
Yeah. See,
people
that's what I'm
from
saying.
the middle of nowhere who don't have the exposure, they are
The ones who are going to
disconnected.
spend the money on it is who they're going
Mhm.
after, not the so-called fan,
Right.
right? That the marketability dictates. If that's where the marketplace is at, that's where the money's at.
Hmm.
I'm going after the larger fish. I'm not worried about the small, niched, hardcore fan base. They
Hmm.
don't decide
They
this,
don't decide. Yeah.
And I think the Whitney thing, it is so early. They know it will be met with resistance. All of the
Hmm.
early adopters always are for something like this, but they
Hmm.
also know that the long play, 10, 15 years from now, ain't gonna be no resistance.
Right, because those
That's
people
gonna
will
be the
move on and
wave.
be what it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
the wave. And what you're probably gonna see is it's not gonna be these scary corporations. It's gonna be the actual estates
Oh
of
yeah,
these artists that's gonna
because
be
they
like,
have to now
we putting
generate
this out.
money
This is
income.
this
Yeah.
is how we gonna do it. And it ain't no backlash. Well, we the one doing it. We're not, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? This is where the
Hmm.
money's at. And there will probably be artists who are alive that are gonna be like, yeah, nigga, roll my avatar. Especially in, here's the thing, in hip hop and rap, and I don't know if I'm saying something disparaging, I could easily see where a rapper would be like, nigga, I don't give a fuck. You mean to tell me I can sit my black ass at home and I can have the hologram version of me doing 3 shows a
Working.
night, getting paid, balling? That will be the thing. They would probably rap that like, you're not really a real one. You're not really a getter out here because, nigga, you are physically out there performing. We balling sitting at home counting stacks while our hologram is
Out there doing the
and
work and
and
entertaining.
we'll get, and I'm sure like that will be respected. Like, oh, he a hustler.
Hmm.
And that's
You're
how
doing
it's
two
gonna
things at
flip.
once.
That's how they're gonna flip. It's gonna flip,
Mhm.
and we'll probably be the ones out there actually. We done again. I'm kind of being joking, but a lot of this stuff they didn't anticipate would be used that way. But we always figure out a way, and I can already see that'll be the thing. That'll be hip hop. Oh yeah, man.
So I
Nigga,
have a question. I
go
have a
ahead.
question to pose to you.
Yes, yeah.
With all of these artists selling their catalog, do you think, or just hypothetically speaking, could there be a clause in there? You sell your catalog, oh, and in the future, your image could be used for hologram AI entertainment experience.
I believe the Tina Turner deal that happened a while ago, that was part of the narrative. She not only sold the catalog, she sold her likeness. So yeah, I would imagine, yeah, of course.
I mean, the blessing is there for the theater production, but wow.
Yeah, man. Some of them are selling their likeness, and some of them might be saying, well, yeah, okay, I'm selling my catalog, publishing and all that. I'm not selling me though. So as much as
Mm-hmm.
they may own the catalog and get some royalties, I still can hit the road and play those songs, and they got to play them nothing. I'm just getting all of my show money, but the show money could be just like you said, my avatar or whatever is out there doing shows in Vegas or whatever all day, or my avatar is in the metaverse putting on shows. I get that money, and the people who I sold my catalog to, good luck trying to get them pennies from Spotify, nigga. We getting real money doing shows with the digital
Mm-hmm.
version. I'm still balling. I
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
own me. So I just think that it's gonna, that's where I could see it moving, and it's gonna be a whole different world. Obviously, it's gonna be a whole different world.
It's going to be interesting what the next 10 to 20 years will show us.
Will look like, yeah.
Yeah, technology wise, music wise. I
But
mean, it's already blossoming
and
and
but,
burgeoning.
but great music is always going to survive. It may present itself in a different way, but I just think those songs and those artists will be dope. And I just feel like if you can present it in the same spirit, the actual details of how it's presented won't matter. If I can still make you feel the same way when you watch Michael Jackson perform,
Hmm.
whether it's in a hologram or it's in a VR environment, but it's the same moves and it's literally Michael Jackson and it's still the same music, why wouldn't you love it? Right? That they can never replicate the feel of, the songs are still the songs. It's still going to resonate. You just may see it in a different way. And I just think that that's what's going to happen. Like we come from a different generation that our brains will sort of resist watching that hologram.
We're used to the concert
Right.
experience in itself.
But the concert experience will evolve, and the concert experience will be putting that headset on and you're in
Yeah.
this environment and it's a concert. And as
And
long as your
people will be
mind,
around, but
Yeah.
they're not around, which is weird because I'm like, hey, I still want to go to concession stand and get my little mozzarella sticks, whatever.
yeah,
But it will be different. Look, it's already changing movie wise. We can watch movies from the comfort of our own homes, and people who do have the means, they're investing in home theaters for a different experience. You can either go to the theater or watch at home. So why wouldn't that now pour over into the concert experience?
absolutely. Into the regular human experience. Like, you could go to the bar.
Scary, that part is scary because nothing compares to enjoying a concert with your friends. Like most of my lifelong sisterships have been
Right.
formed around the concert experience.
Yeah. And they're going to be lifelong experience that have already happened from the multiplayer world experience, right? Like it's just whatever your mind decides, it gives you the experience. And the way that people used to go to shows and movies back in the day, where you would go on Saturday and watch, these 5-minute reels of movies over, you know what I mean? And you would go we don't do that now, right?
Right.
We go and watch the one movie, or you can watch it at home. Things evolve. And the same way with music, the way we're talking now, that would be the old way. And the new way that they'll get experiences, the same experiences that we got, it just be in a different way. But the human mind still works the same. And they're going to have those experiences the same ways that we had it. It's just in a different way. But it'll still be, hey, I met you at the, Travis Scott show on Fortnite, and you were walking down that one virtual lane. I was walking, and we ended up talking, and then we jumped into a different VR world and had a great conversation, and I met you, and now we talk every day, and now we're friends. That's going to be still going to be the same going to happen.
So let me ask you, what would, and without the hologram, because we already know that that's the hard no for Prince, but what would the metaverse be in the Prince quantum realm? Like, how would you want to see that? Would you want to have the opportunity to then be submerged in a world where you put your headset on and you're listening to the stems from stuff from the vault, or you're experiencing a concert again in the setting with your headset on? Like, what would that be for you? What would you want to
that's a good question.
want to hear and see?
Hypothetically, if the Paisley Park experience could be, you put that headset on and you're in Studio A. Okay. And they're like, you can grab one of the albums, click it, and pull it down to the control board, and it's all lined up with the tracks.
I feel teary.
And you can play and move them tracks, and you can listen to that album the way you want to listen to it, or you can listen to it the way Prince intended, whatever, right? But the super dope audio, and you feel like you are in the presence of it, that could be almost a no-brainer for some people. They'd be like, well, of course I'm gonna pay for that. Well, Prince didn't. Yeah, but that shit didn't exist when Prince was alive. So how you don't know he didn't? It's gonna be a lot of that. And like I said,
I mean, like I mentioned on a thread I had posted about, the MPG was so forward thinking and futuristic. If he was still here, I can imagine him possibly creating something exclusive to
absolutely
himself. That's sort of taking his brand into the future. And that's what I sort of am curious about and tinkering, and what you just said. Man, oh man. I mean, I'm thinking about during the tours and just having the opportunity in Studio A and hearing the breakdown raw. I was bawling because the sound alone was bar none.
Yeah.
So to be able for others to hear what I heard, that would be really, really.
Yeah, that imagine if that was a special edition where it included the digital code, or it was the digital VR code, and you can experience this music in a whole other way. Same with videos. Like, okay, well, Warner Brothers is releasing the Purple Rain movie. It's been converted into VR format. If you're going to sit there and tell me that people are not going to be jumping to go buy that and be talking about, well, Prince didn't want that, stop it. They bought that the day it was available for download. They've had a headset on that got probably done put the Prince logo on the front of the headset, and you can watch the movie, but it feels like you are, when a movie starts out and you're down with the crowd cheering and Prince is playing Let's Go Crazy is playing out for you like that, or you're standing on the other side of the ironing table when Morris is ironing his pants on that montage.
Wow.
You'll be like, man, I'm living in this movie. What are you talking about? Like that, as I'm saying, it would, all the little resistance.
Don't talk about y'all running over the Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. You can replay that, and you right there. Stop it. We'd eat that up. And the resistance of that ain't how he want, that would be so small. But again, if the majority of mainstream public was already on some VR stuff, that's who they're gonna go for. It's just it is what it is. Like,
me, I'd be under the cherry moon. Like
I said, it'd be a no-brainer. The Sign of the Times movie.
Oh wow, that would be really fun.
You're like, what? I'll be buying that. Man, that's what I'm saying.
Or recreating the CD-ROM. I mean, I had a chance to look at that, but just imagine recreating that to sort of go through those early stages of Prince embracing, the technology. And, I would love for Sam Jennings to, if he was open to it, to be involved in, if they were open to doing stuff like that, that would be interesting lane to take things, especially with what's going on now. Our international fans can still partake in some things,
Yeah. And it's things always change. I mean, we got the Sign of the Times special edition, and it had a Blu-ray in there, right, of the New Year's Eve show. Blu-rays did not exist, nor the DVDs for that matter, really, when that was recorded. And I don't think Prince intended for you to actually own that at all. That's not why he filmed it, right? So the whole, like, what they wouldn't have did, they've already done that. They've already taken things that were private or just for himself or recorded for other things and have put it on technology that did not exist at the time these things were recorded and sold it to you.
And we need this. We need the technology to preserve the music. Hence it being in a different location.
Yeah, and things just change. It just,
Things change. Yeah.
oh, I want it on vinyl. Okay, but keep it a buck. 30 years from now, it's going to be a high price item to get because it's going to be so rare. And
Hmm.
even today, oh, I want it on Blu-ray. Well, Blu-ray is going out now. Like this, it's not going to be too many discs. It almost seems crazy. Like, why would you have something that you can hold and lose it, and you can only play it on a particular player, as opposed to having it on something that can be played that we all have,
Right.
and it never is going to deteriorate, and it's
Mhm.
always there for sale. It just doesn't logically. Why would you go back to it? It never goes back. It'd just
No, I
be
mean
it'd just be like a
for
rare sort of
it'd be rare
novelty
for
thing,
completists that you have all of so and so
right?
collection, but you definitely want to move forward in how the music is received.
Yeah, my only problem, the only thing I'll have a concern, to be honest, as I think about it, is if for some reason they altered the
No
music,
altering.
altered the
They have to
music.
put that in a clause. No
Yeah,
altering
that's where I would
whatsoever.
have the problem. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna bring in this, or we're gonna strip his
Yeah.
vocals and put it over. And nah, nah, nah,
No,
nah,
you're gonna bring in a choir or something.
yeah,
No,
nah, nah.
no, nothing crazy.
That's where I
Imagine
would have a
bringing
problem.
in the Let's Go Crazy gospel choir.
Nah, Lord,
Don't do it. So,
nah.
but I have to go back to something else as far as like we would never think that this would happen in the audio presentation of Purple Rain from David Addy and sound by Louis Laporte. Like that was insane. And that was all from an idea from Ruth. But the fact that it happened audio wise
Hmm.
and people who never saw Purple Rain to sort of get a feel for what it is on a platform such as Clubhouse. This is what I'm talking about, of like fun ways of really representing or doing something fresh, but yet respectful of
Hmm. Hmm.
the original project.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure there'll be years from now, there'll be some video, or it'll be with avatars or animation version or something that some fans will do, and it'll be
Oh,
like,
can you
wow.
imagine an animated version of Purple Rain cartoon wise?
Yeah,
Like, I'm all over that.
that would be dope.
Just with the graphic.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to see. Again, like I still say there's so much other things aside from Purple Rain. However, other people who are coming into it, that might be their first introduction. For us hardcores, we're over the purple vinyl, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
However, if you do something animated, that brings a fresh take to it. Just to see how it's done, how the voices sound, or what, someone will figure that out eventually. Maybe they'll do an animated graffiti bridge.
Hilarious. Maybe it'll work that way.
And just you'll see the graffiti, appearing as it's written on the bridge or something. Just, no.
Yeah, I don't, man, me personally, I don't have a problem with Purple Rain being showered like it is. I think it's worthy of all of the accolades. It's a dope album. It's Prince. At the end of the day, it's just Prince to me. So whatever somebody can get in, if it's easier for them to get into Purple Rain, I don't have no problem with it. Keep selling it. I get the fans why you would say that,
yeah,
but
we want the other works to have their opportunity to have their shine.
sure, yeah.
So much music. It might not resonate with everybody, but again, there might be that one ear that'll grab and it'll change their life or make them want to pick up an instrument. So
Yeah, I think Purple Rain it's just that damn good. At the time that it came out, it was a head buster for Prince. The movie, he had the attention of the mainstream. Because he could have the attention from the mainstream for a lot of things that aren't worthy to be given it all your attention like that. Mm-hmm. And he just so happened to drop something that's worthy of your attention. You know what I mean? And so that's why, to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm like a fan too. Like, yeah, I would love, like, if Love Sexy had that sort of attention to it. But I also realized that Love Sexy, it's not Purple Rain. If you would have dropped Love Sexy before Purple Rain, it wouldn't have been the same.
Because people wouldn't have been ready. Because I personally
for a number of
have
reasons,
a problem that it ran from beginning to end. Like, to me, that was sort of like his own rock opera.
Talking about Love Sexy?
But people wanted to hear the songs one by one.
See, was that really a thing? I didn't have a CD player at that point, so I didn't understand. That was not ever a concern. I never had a CD.
I took it in as, you know, I didn't mind it being continuous.
See, I had no idea that was a thing. Like, I only had the record and the tape deck. And so tape decks are all continuous. So it never became an issue to me. It's like I never knew nothing about that, like, until later. And I was like, oh, okay, the CD is all one song. Okay. Well, I've been listening to it from day one on record, and so I didn't really see what the problem. But I get, I can see in the CD world that that would be frustrating.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. If Love Sexy would have came out first,
or even Sign of the Times, like, they all came when they were supposed to, but I just feel like he hit a trifecta with just everything out the gate, like the concert, the album, the tour. It was all one consistent barrage.
Yes.
That it was just undeniable, and then it was good. And then the next ones, like I said, Around the World in a Day, wasn't no tour. Videos were sporadic.
Yeah, because at that point, I imagine he was sick of Purple Rain.
Right. I mean, for whatever the reasons were, I'm just saying in terms of how they presented to the public.
Yeah.
You know. Parade, okay, music banging, come with the album. Now, video, movie. Now, hardcore fans may have thought it was banging, but general public, it's like, nah, what is this? the whole trifecta is not work. The tour, select cities, we didn't all get to see that tour, so it's not hitting on all cylinders. Even though the work is fantastic, it just kind of came out jumbled or something. Sign of the Times, banging albums, a lot to get into. Where's that video at? There's no video for Sign of the Times. Movie don't come till way later. So, I mean, it was sort of splintered. It wasn't a trifecta of just busting you over the head where you don't have time to breathe. Right. In Purple Rain, you didn't have no time to breathe. He was hitting you on all cylinders. And I think that's the difference with some of this stuff. When he can get it all together, then Love Sexy, come with the album, come with the video, okay? But some people have a problem with the presentation of the cover. And of course, other things in the music world are happening, and it ain't just all about Prince no more. So you got a lot, this people's tastes are changing. The concert comes, but I just think it comes at that point where he's already a known entity at that point. And it's like, well, he's not the new kid on the block here either. So I'm not going to be as fascinated. I'm just thinking on a mainstream level, I'm not as fascinated with it from when he first came out.
Yeah, and they also didn't understand, as someone who just continued to evolve musically and their image, it couldn't digest it. Like, oh, you have on some George Washington bow in the back of your head and tight. And
yeah, it's like, what is this?
What's happening here? Meanwhile, his own vision and plan is already laid out, already in advance before it comes out. So that's how much he was ahead of the game, but others had to catch up.
Right. And it
in every
wasn't
sense of the
like,
word.
it was catch up, excuse me, where you had to do a little work. And again, the music, that Alphabet Street banger, like, oh yeah. Then the next one is kind of like, what is this? I got to sit down and like decipher this one. This is a little different. And it's not the immediate, again, giving you time to breathe. And I just think that makes a difference when you got all this other competition going on and he's moving at light speed.
Right.
You know, and the audience is like, well, man, I'm not moving at light speed with you because I don't even know what this is. And then have you seen this other guy? You know, there's so many other things vying for our attention.
Yep.
You know, you're not the it kid. You may be the it kid, but I don't understand what you're doing. You know, it's just too much. You know, you're moving too fast. And you know, so but Purple Rain, like I said, for me, Purple Rain hits it all across the board, and they were there for all of it. And you can go back and watch that movie. It becomes a cultural standpoint. You can go back and listen to that album as a cultural standpoint. You can go back and watch some of the concerts and it's a cultural standpoint. All cylinders is fire. And I think so that's why it's going to always have a place. Even though he goes on to do bigger and better things, it's just that was a perfect time and place of it that he could do no wrong. You know, it's just like, okay. Everything after that is based off of this.
This is
for
correct.
A lot of people, right?
Yeah.
The only reason I'm paying attention to you anymore is based off of how I felt when I saw Purple Rain. That's what they're saying, right? So they're always going to call back to it and want to be reminded of that. And yeah, you got some new shit that's fire, but where that Purple Rain? and that's it. You can't be mad at people when you gave them some of the best cooking in their life. And then they come back to eat and you on some veggie shit. And they're like, hey,
watch it now.
Well, I mean, you know, when it's like, hey, this tastes cool. This is cool. Okay, this is nice. I feel like I'm eating a meal. But where them yams at, goddamn? You know, who made the corn? Where the cornbread? Stop playing with me. That's what happened, you know. Or where the neck bones at? Well, we don't eat neck bones anymore. Well, I do. Yeah, I paid for some neck bones. I know you don't eat them, nigga, but I paid for some. I had expectations for some neck bones, goddamn it. So you ain't. Well, I don't play them old stuff no more. Oh yeah, okay, well.
And you know he did that many a time. He's like, oh, can't even get your Purple Rain on. You in the wrong house. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I might not be coming back too quick now till I know they're going to be some neck bones. And then, of course, Prince had, we're going back to the old stuff. I'm calling my name. But okay, cool. He gonna be serving neck bones, y'all. I didn't buy the new album, but I know the concert, they're going to be selling them old neck bones. So we going. And this shit going to be good. And that's to me, Prince and neck bones is the same. And now it's like, okay, you can play around if you want to now, but we love you from some neck bone, boy. Stop playing with us now. Anyway, now I'm getting hungry. But it's all love. We love Prince. We love Prince.
Absolutely.
Tammy, Lord.
Reflect on some. I could talk about music for hours.
Yeah, as we just did. Yeah, we want to get up out of here. But wow, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much. Like, this is awesome.
And thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on the show and talk with you and chop it up. Always amazing. Always good. And hopefully, there's more fun times to go at the Mecca, that is Paisley Park.
Yes. Real quick, where can people find you online?
I am on the Book of Faith under Alana Mika, and also
what does that name mean?
That is actually my government.
Really? You have so many names that I don't know which.
It's my middle name. So,
Ah,
um, and Mika is a derivative of Tammy, of course. It's a lot of stuff.
interesting.
Um,
I did not know this.
and on Clubhouse, I am under Tammy. So that's where I am in these internet streets, and soon to be on the metaverse.
All right, all right,
Soon as I
yeah.
get my headset.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, you already know where to find us because you are here. But we appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please, we'd love to hear your comments. And yo, with that, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.
We'll be lovers for tomorrow, even if we're far away. Never ever sorrow, 'cause you occupy my heart.